The seventh night after the marriage certificate, the reserved Mr. Huo stops pretending. When Lin Xiaoqi was 20, her family forced her to marry a scoundrel. Lin Xiaoqi didn't want to marry him, so she decided to find a husband for herself. The girl was determined, and within just a month, she found herself a husband, the eldest son of the prestigious Huo family in Jiangcheng. The young master of the Huo family was perfect in every way, except for being blind. But Lin Xiaoqi was content this husband was easy to deal with. They didn't share a room, nor did they meet often, but he provided her with plenty of money, and the Huo family treated her like royalty. However, on the seventh day after they got their marriage certificate, the young master of the Huo family broke into her room in the middle of the night. That's when Lin Xiaoqi discovered the truth: this guy had been pretending to be a fool, and he wasn't blind at all. From that moment on, the young master of the Huo family discarded his reserved, low-key facade and transformed into a loving, possessive husband, relentlessly chasing his wife and showing off their love in high profile. Chapter 1: Stepping into the Aristocracy. In November, Jiangcheng had already felt the chill of winter, and it became even colder after nightfall. Lin Xiaoqi lay in bed, unable to sleep. "Go and urge the Xie family tomorrow. We need to hurry up and arrange Xiaoqi's marriage. I'm afraid of more delays," her uncle grumbled. "Why don't you go?" her uncle muttered unhappily. "Always pushing, as if we're selling our daughter." Her aunt lowered her voice and coaxed, "Once the dowry arrives, I'll immediately deposit 500,000 into your little savings account. How about that?" "It's not about the money," her uncle replied. "I promised your brother I'd take good care of Xiaoqi, but that third son of the Xie family." Her aunt gritted her teeth. "But she has to get married, right? The Xie family is wealthy. She won't be mistreated if she marries into their family." "I see your point. If we're not desperate for money, I wouldn't push for this either. But this 5 million could solve our immediate problems. And our daughter will graduate soon. Don't you want to buy her a new car?" Her uncle fell silent for a moment before responding, "Fine. I'll ask when I get the chance." This was what Lin Xiaoqi overheard while walking past her uncle and aunt's room before bed. Since her parents passed away when she was 10, she had lived with her uncle's family for the past 10 years. She was willing to marry and receive a generous dowry as a way to repay her uncle for raising her, but that third son of the Xie family was absolutely unsuitable. It wasn't about being picky, he had a gambling habit, visited brothels, and had a violent streak. Marrying into a prestigious family like the Xie family was no easy feat, but escaping it would be even harder. She certainly didn't want to enter standing tall only to leave on her back. But the Xie family's dowry was substantial, and even if Xiaoqi didn't want it, her aunt would still push her into marriage. What should she do? After a night of tossing and turning, she realized there was only one person who could help her solve this problem. The next morning, Lin Xiaoqi dialed the phone number of Mrs. Huo from the Huo family, one of Jiangcheng's aristocratic families. Lin Xiaoqi's parents had been Mrs. Huo's students. After her parents passed away, Mrs. Huo had visited her, holding her in her arms with red eyes, saying that if she ever encountered difficulties, she could come to her. Now, faced with her dilemma and having no one to advise her, Lin Xiaoqi gathered the courage to reach out to Mrs. Huo. Her aunt was only after money. As long as Lin Xiaoqi could earn enough to repay her for the years she raised her, the problem would be solved. But if she couldn't make money quickly, perhaps Mrs. Huo could introduce her to a wealthy, good family, and that would simplify things. After all, Mrs. Huo had vast connections and resources. Lin Xiaoqi hoped that Mrs. Huo could show her a clear path. On the phone, she explained her situation honestly, and Mrs. Huo, after listening, didn't say much but arranged to meet her in person. That afternoon, Lin Xiaoqi tidied herself up and went to visit Mrs. Huo. Mrs. Huo was warm and kind, giving her an appreciative look as she sized her up. "You've become more beautiful," she complimented, holding her hand and chatting with her for a while. Mrs. Huo asked about her recent situation and, inevitably, brought up her late parents. "When your mother was my student, I felt a special connection with her. She was like my own daughter. Your father was one of my proudest students. It's such a pity how life changes." As Mrs. Huo spoke of her late parents, her eyes reddened, and she sighed, wiping away a tear. Lin Xiaoqi's heart ached, and she squeezed Mrs. Huo's hand in comfort. "After your parents passed, I thought you were doing fine. But now, at just 20, your uncle is rushing you to marry that man from the Xie family. Sigh, no matter what, once you marry into the Huo family, I'll make sure you never suffer again." Lin Xiaoqi froze. Marry into their Huo family? Mrs. Huo nodded. Yes. I'm thinking of introducing my eldest grandson to you. Would you be willing? Lin Xiaoqi was stunned for a moment. Mrs. Huo's eldest grandson, the young master of the Huo family, what kind of concept was that? His wealth and status were unmatched not only in Jiangcheng but throughout the entire Jianghai region. And what about her? The Lin family, a small offshoot of a once great family, was now in decline. She and the young master of the Huo family seemed to be worlds apart. But Mrs. Huo smiled warmly and said, he has also had a hard life. Both his parents passed away years ago. So, I can make this decision for him. Considering that Lin Xiaoqi was still in school, Mrs. Huo suggested they could marry without a wedding ceremony and just register the marriage. As for the dowry, the Huo family would double what the Xie family offered. Mrs. Huo paused before adding, however, he is a few years older than you. He is 27. Not sure if you mind. Lin Xiaoqi wasn't concerned about the age difference. Her expectations weren't high, she didn't mind if he was older or not conventionally handsome. And honestly, 27 wasn't old, she was just too young. Seeing that Lin Xiaoqi seemed to be worried about the age difference, Mrs. Huo quickly added, but my grandson looks young for his age. He takes good care of himself. Lin Xiaoqi quickly reassured her, saying she wasn't concerned about the age gap. What surprised her was that Mrs. Huo was suggesting her grandson as a potential husband. After all, she was just an adopted daughter from a small family. Mrs. Huo immediately said, what small family? I only care about character. And I'm very good at judging people. Xiaoqi, you're no less than those so-called rich family daughters. Hearing this made Lin Xiaoqi feel both warm and flattered, as if an unexpected stroke of luck had fallen right into her lap. But, something didn't feel quite right. Something was off. Mrs. Huo must have noticed her hesitation, so she asked, is there anything on your mind? Feel free to tell me. Don't hold back. Lin Xiaoqi hurriedly responded, saying she had no other requirements, just that everything felt too sudden and a little unreal. Mrs. Huo sighed and then revealed the truth. 2 years ago, my grandson had an accident and lost his eyesight. His original marriage arrangement was recently called off because the girl refused to marry him, thinking his eyesight wouldn't recover. I've been quite upset about it lately. Now that you're struggling with your own marriage, and I see how straightforward and sincere you are, I'd like to introduce you to him. After hearing Mrs. Huo's explanation, Lin Xiaoqi felt reassured and was more willing to marry him. Of course, she also weighed her options. One was a spoiled, gambling, womanizing man with violent tendencies, and the other was a well-mannered, upright man who had lost his sight. She would definitely choose the latter. Noticing her hesitation, Mrs. Huo smiled and said, if you mind his disability, I can understand. Lin Xiaoqi immediately shook her head. No, I don't mind. It's just, does he want to marry me? She thought, even though the young master of the Huo family was blind, he was still excellent, and it wasn't necessarily the case that he would lower his standards for marriage. Mrs. Huo beamed. Of course, he wants to marry you. You're young, beautiful, and kind, what not to like? Lin Xiaoqi blushed slightly, her long hair falling in front of her face. Grandma, you're too kind. Still, she needed to discuss this with her uncle and aunt, so she asked Mrs. Huo for one day to consult with her family before giving an answer. Mrs. Huo was very understanding and personally escorted her to the door, asking the Huo family's driver to take her back. As soon as Lin Xiaoqi returned home, before she could even speak, her aunt, with a knowing look, immediately asked about the Rolls-Royce that had brought her home. Lin Xiaoqi explained everything truthfully. Her uncle still hesitated, worried that, given the young master's disability, Xiaoqi might have to care for him and suffer. Her aunt nudged her uncle with her elbow and said, the Huo family is an aristocratic family, they have plenty of servants. Xiaoqi won't need to personally take care of him. And the dowry they are offering shows their sincerity. What's there to hesitate about? Her uncle sighed and said no more. The next day, her aunt asked Lin Xiaoqi to go back to the Huo family and get married in 3 days. As for the Xie family, her aunt had kept a backup plan. Only after Lin Xiaoqi and the young master of the Huo family registered their marriage would they withdraw from the engagement with the Xie family. That meant, if the Huo family backed out, Lin Xiaoqi would still have to marry the third son of the Xie family. The next 3 days were agonizing for Lin Xiaoqi. Finally, on the day they were supposed to register their marriage, she arrived early at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Standing in the chilly autumn wind, she waited anxiously for the fiancé she had never met. But the agreed upon time passed, and he still hadn't shown up. Lin Xiaoqi began to feel uneasy. After all, it was Mrs. Huo who had arranged everything for her. She hadn't even met the young master of the Huo family yet. What was his opinion? Lin Xiaoqi had no idea. Still, no one had shown up. Could it be that he had changed his mind and wasn't he coming? Just as she was growing anxious, a sleek black luxury car slowly pulled up in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Chapter 2, Is it time to think about having a baby? The driver got out and walked around to the right side of the car to open the door. A young man wearing sunglasses stepped out of the car. Lin Xiaoqi noticed the sunglasses and the careful assistance from the driver, and she instantly thought that this must be the eldest grandson of Mrs. Huo, Huo Yuzhen. She quickly walked over and stood in front of the young man. "Hello, you must be Mr. Huo. I'm Lin Xiaoqi." The man remained calm, nodding slightly in her direction. "Sorry, I was stuck in traffic." His voice was pleasant to the ear, magnetic, deep, and steady, giving a sense of reassurance. Lin Xiaoqi replied, "It's fine. I just arrived too." As she spoke, she couldn't help but take a closer look at him. He was tall and handsome, and even with the thick sunglasses, he exuded an air of aristocratic grace that couldn't be hidden. With such good looks and background, if he weren't blind, how many girls would be eager to marry him? Lin Xiaoqi couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Fate was unpredictable. Just like her own life, if it hadn't been for that plane crash, perhaps the person walking into the Civil Affairs Bureau with her today would have been someone else. Thinking of this, Lin Xiaoqi quickly shook her head, dismissing those untimely thoughts. With the assistance of an assistant, their marriage registration process went smoothly. They signed the papers, pressed their fingerprints, and just had to wait for the marriage certificate to be prepared. During the waiting period, Lin Xiaoqi noticed some red ink still on his fingers and reached for a tissue to help him wipe it off. But as soon as her finger brushed his, Huo Yuzhen raised his hand and avoided her touch. "Thank you, I'll do it myself." Lin Xiaoqi left the tissue in his hand, pulling hers back and putting it in her pocket. It seemed this marriage had come unexpectedly, and the young master was still adjusting. Well, they could take it slow. Once the marriage certificate was ready, Lin Xiaoqi carefully put it away, and together with Huo Yuzhen, they left the Civil Affairs Bureau and got into his car, heading to their new home. They weren't holding a wedding after getting their certificate. Lin Xiaoqi would officially move in with him. Her luggage had been sent over the day before. The car smoothly passed through several streets before finally stopping in front of a luxurious dark grey villa on the outskirts of town. A tree with pale yellow osmunthus flowers released a delicate fragrance, which drifted out from the iron gate. This was the wedding gift Mrs. Huo had prepared for the young couple. Looking at the villa in front of her, Lin Xiaoqi felt a little uneasy. Two people who were almost strangers, who hadn't even held hands yet, were now going to live together after just getting a marriage certificate. It felt almost unbelievable. Of course, she didn't mind living together. Since she was married, there was no point in holding on to things like maintaining her virginity. That would be too pretentious and selfish. It was just that the thought of having to be intimate with this man made her a little nervous. Lin Xiaoqi took a deep breath, unbuckled her seatbelt, and was about to get out of the car when Huo Yuzhen stopped her. "Wait a moment. I need to talk to you." As soon as he finished speaking, the assistant in the front seat sensibly got out of the car. Lin Xiaoqi glanced at the man beside her, feeling a thin layer of sweat forming in her palms. He was like a frozen lake, impossible to read and difficult to know how to interact with. Considering he was 7 years older than her and they were still strangers, she carefully considered her words and spoke respectfully. "Go ahead, I'm listening." Huo Yuzhen slightly turned his head toward her. "I don't know if your grandmother mentioned this, but she has cancer. The doctors say if she maintains well, she'll only have about 2 years left. I married you to prevent her from worrying about me." Lin Xiaoqi was stunned for a moment, then felt her nose tingle. Grandma didn't tell me. This explained why Huo Yuzhen would agree to marry a girl he had never met before. The corners of Huo Yuzhen's mouth tightened as he spoke about his grandmother's illness, and it was clear that he was deeply saddened by it. "So, I can't guarantee we'll stay together forever. But I can promise you that until we understand and accept each other, I won't touch you. Also, since you're still studying, in order not to affect your academic life, we'll keep our marriage private for now. In 2 years, if we divorce, I will give you compensation." The amount will be something you'll be satisfied with. Lin Xiaoqi understood. Essentially, after his grandmother passed, it was likely they would divorce, so they wouldn't make their marriage public for now, and there would be no marital relations, just a formality. The thought of divorce actually made Lin Xiaoqi feel relieved. After all, if it weren't for using the bride price to repay her uncle and aunt for raising her, Lin Xiaoqi had already resigned herself to living her life without marriage. However, when Wei Yuzhen mentioned marital intimacy, another concern of Lin Xiaoqi's surfaced. I understand everything you've said, but there's one thing we might need to discuss. What is it? Lin Xiaoqi hesitated for a moment, then, after a deep breath, made up her mind and said it out loud. Grandma wanted us to have a baby soon while we're still young. At the time, I didn't think we'd divorce, so I agreed. But now that I see how serious Grandma's condition is. Lin Xiaoqi had thought that soon meant after graduation, but now, with Grandma's health deteriorating, it seemed she hoped to see a great-grandchild before her passing. What should they do about having a child? Should they not have one, or should they try to have one quickly? Chapter 3, Feeling him on her bed in the middle of the night. Upon hearing the words, having a child, Wei Yuzhen was momentarily stunned. His grandmother really knew how to make things difficult. The girl hadn't even finished her studies, and she was already being asked to think about having a baby. Wei Yuzhen glanced at the young girl whose cheeks were flushed and said, I'll talk to Grandma about this. You don't need to worry too much, just focus on finishing your university. He continued, also, I don't usually stay here. The butler and servants are here 24 hours a day. If you need anything, just tell them. After saying this, he looked at the girl beside him. He thought, if she felt neglected or sulked, how should he comfort her? After all, on their first day of marriage, he had already turned her down like that. She must be feeling bad inside. If she was really having a hard time accepting it, he could stay here tonight. But as for sleeping in the same room, he thought better of it. They had already made it clear that they would divorce, so it would be unethical to take advantage of her purity. However, he seemed to have overthought things. The girl, upon hearing that she wouldn't have to have a child with him and that he wouldn't stay at the house, was so relieved that a bright smile almost escaped her eyes. She quickly agreed, okay, you do your thing, and don't worry about me. Oh, so the girl wasn't all that interested in him. Then, she suddenly remembered something and added softly, I'll keep it a secret from Grandma too. Wei Yuzhen raised an eyebrow, surprised that she was smarter than he expected. But hearing her agree to everything so easily made him feel like he was being too harsh on her. After thinking for a moment, he took out a bank card from his inner pocket and handed it to her. You're newly moved in, so if you need to buy anything, just use this card. There's no password. The girl, however, didn't take it. Thank you, Mr. Huo, but I don't spend much. I have some savings of my own. With that, she opened the car door and quickly got out, as if his money would bite her hand. Since she refused to take it, Wei Yuzhen didn't insist. Grandma had already given the girl a generous dowry, though it might not have reached her hands directly. But she had the villa and 2 sets of jewelry worth millions enough, really. If they divorced in the future, he would give her more. To be honest, this marriage wasn't all bad for the girl. Apart from having a divorced label in her household registration book, her body would remain intact, and she would get a large sum of money. It could be said that she was getting quite a deal. As for Wei Yuzhen, he had just one request, don't bother him unless necessary. As it turned out, Wei Yuzhen had overthought the situation. He was worried that the girl would bother him, but in the following days, she never contacted him even once. It got to the point where Wei Yuzhen began to doubt whether he was really married. As for Lin Xiaoqi, she had figured out what Wei Yuzhen meant on their wedding day. He didn't want too much contact with her. So, she decided to be a good little invisible person. Honestly, it wasn't a bad feeling. The university she attended was in Jiangcheng. After the marriage, following Grandma Huo's wishes, she quit the dormitory and moved into the family home. The house wasn't far from the school, so she bought a bicycle. Every morning, she rode to school, very convenient. If she didn't have classes in the afternoon, she would stay at home and draw illustrations. Each small painting sold for 200 or 300 yuan, enough for her to cover her personal expenses. She also enjoyed the environment she was living in. The small garden arranged by Grandma Huo was quite charming. She'd set up a small chair in the garden and sit there, sketching flowers, plants, flying birds, fish, insects, and the occasional stray cat that would sneak through the fence. All of these became her drawing material. Her daily life was comfortable. Uncle Ding, the butler, was a kind man who knew she liked drawing animals, so he even brought the old house's dog over for her to sketch. To be honest, Lin Xiaoqi hadn't received this much kindness in a long time. But every now and then, she would glance at the marriage certificate in the drawer, staring at the names written on it. She'd fall into a daze for a moment. Her fingers would brush over the name in the spouse column, and she couldn't help but think that she had once been so certain that this name would be someone else's. Now, looking at it, she only felt foolish. People's destinies were always unpredictable. Who could really say that something was definitely going to happen? The life after marriage was so peaceful that Lin Xiaoqi almost felt disoriented. She thought this peace would last until the two of them divorced. But the peace didn't last long. On the 7th night after her marriage, it was suddenly broken. That night, after taking a shower and changing into a nightgown, she got into bed. As soon as she turned off the lights and lay down, she heard the door to the suite open. Normally, after 9 p.m., unless there was something special, the butler and servants wouldn't come to the 3rd floor. She also didn't have the habit of locking the door. Even if the servants came, they would knock first. Who's there? Lin Xiaoqi was about to turn on the bedside lamp when the person had already entered the bedroom. In 2 steps, he was at her bedside. He grabbed her wrist and covered her mouth. "Don't make a sound. It's me." The man had an aura of coldness about him. In the dim light, she couldn't see his face clearly, but his voice was very familiar. Lin Xiaoqi reacted for a moment. Huh? This person seemed to be her husband. Then, a multitude of questions rushed into her mind. Without a guide dog or a cane, how did a blind man manage to find his way to her bed with such precision? Chapter 4, Coming to make up for the wedding night? Lin Xiaoqi also noticed that the man's voice was extremely low, and he wouldn't let her turn on the light, as if he were being chased by someone. No matter what, Lin Xiaoqi tried to calm herself down and nodded at the man. The gesture meant she recognized him and wouldn't scream. The man released his grip. "Why did you suddenly come here? Is something wrong?" Lin Xiaoqi asked in a low voice. However, he didn't answer, instead starting to undress. In less than a minute, the guy had taken off his outer clothes and was nearly naked, crawling into her bed. Lin Xiaoqi was completely stunned. He didn't seem like he was being chased, but rather like he came here to. "Are you here to make up for our wedding night?" Wei Yuzhen paused for 2 seconds before responding, "Do you want me to make up for it?" He paused again, with a teasing tone, "It wouldn't be impossible." Lin Xiaoqi froze in place, shaking her head wildly in the dark room. No, I just don't understand why you're taking off your clothes." He finally gave a serious answer to her question. "Grandma probably knows we haven't been living together, so she just called Uncle Ding and said she was coming to get something. But it's actually a surprise inspection." He stopped briefly, as if listening for something outside. "She should have already come upstairs. If she knocks, you go open the door." So Grandma came to check on them. That meant she had to act fast and cover up. However, lying in bed with this man, whom she'd only met once, made her feel surrounded by his presence. Her legs stiffened, and her hands nervously had nowhere to go. Still, Lin Xiaoqi's mind was racing. If Grandma comes in and sees there's no trace of you living here, won't she be suspicious? Even if he's undressed, once she turns on the light and sees he doesn't even have his slippers on, Grandma would definitely be suspicious, right? He must have thought of this as well. After a moment of silence, he asked, "Can you scream?" Lin Xiaoqi turned to look at him. "Scream about what?" Wei Yuzhen was facing her now. In the dark, it almost felt like she could see the intensity in his deep eyes. It seemed like he was looking at her. But blind people's eyes should have no focus. Thinking this, Lin Xiaoqi waved her hand in front of Wei Yuzhen's face. He didn't react. Had she misjudged it? Or was she overthinking? Lin Xiaoqi leaned a bit closer, wanting to get a better look at his eyes. But before she could get any closer, he suddenly urged, "Do you want me to teach you?" Lin Xiaoqi quickly retreated, feeling she shouldn't be questioning his eyesight at this moment. As for what he meant by scream, she finally realized. As long as Grandma hears them doing it, she wouldn't come in to check and would think they were in a loving relationship. No need, I know how, she quickly responded. She felt like the man was still unsure. Lin Xiaoqi quickly added, I may not have eaten pork, but I've seen pigs run. The man gave a faint and waited for her. Lin Xiaoqi took a deep breath. But after a long pause, she couldn't even get a single R out of her throat. I just can't get into character. The main problem was that it was too awkward. How could she do it in front of a man she barely knew? She'd need a lot of courage to not feel embarrassed. Huo Yuzhen didn't say anything, falling silent for a couple of seconds before turning onto her and pinning both her wrists. He then lowered his head and bit her neck. Are you? He didn't just bite and lift his head, but he was kissing her neck. Don't be so surprised. You need to enjoy it more, he said, continuing to kiss her neck lightly but persistently. The situation was getting out of hand. She felt like he was taking advantage of her, and she was so scared that her breath was almost gone, let alone shouting. Huo Yuzhen paused, leaning in to whisper in her ear, still not screaming. Want me to really do it? No, she shouted instinctively. Not bad at all, the man murmured in her ear, a bit playful. But you'll need to make more noise. My grandma's hearing isn't that good. His magnetic voice sunk into Lin Xiaoqi's ear, and she felt her mind go fuzzy, her heart racing unnaturally. At the same time, she heard noises outside the door. Grandma and Uncle Ding were talking. She couldn't care about anything else anymore. Lin Xiaoqi shut her eyes, steeled herself, and opened her mouth. At first, she wasn't used to it, but after 2 s and no s, she started to loosen up. She was starting to get into character. Maybe she should have studied acting instead of painting? Lin Xiaoqi, deeply immersed in her performance, had no idea what Huo Yuzhen was feeling. All she could sense was that the man's body was getting hotter and hotter. Gradually, it felt like something was starting to press against her thigh. She shifted uncomfortably, trying to move away. But Huo Yuzhen pressed her down forcefully. Don't move, he warned in a low, husky voice. Lin Xiaoqi had no choice but to lie still and quietly ask, has Grandma left? Huo Yuzhen, with his deep dark eyes seemingly focused on her lips, stared for a few seconds before replying, I don't think so. All right. I don't hear anything from outside anymore. Huo Yuzhen was silent for 2 seconds before speaking in a low voice, she might want to see if we're really acting, pretending to leave. Question mark. Is that so? Well, Grandma was sharp, and that was another problem. She had no choice but to continue making noises as if immersed in passionate moments. Because she kept her eyes shut the whole time, she didn't see the growing intensity in Huo Yuzhen's gaze as he continued to watch her. Chapter 5, The Body is Honest. In fact, a few minutes earlier, Huo Yuzhen had already heard the sound of Grandma going downstairs. After hearing a couple of sounds of their playful interactions, the old lady likely felt embarrassed and decided to leave, heading downstairs immediately. But the soft, gentle girl beneath him made him a little distracted, wanting to stay a little longer. As Lin Xiaoqi's moans grew louder and more passionate, she seemed to be getting into it, and it only made Huo Yuzhen more aroused. Every sound she made, every sharp breath, tested his self-control. He couldn't help but wonder where this little girl had learned this from. It seemed pretty convincing. Had she experienced it herself, or had she seen it in movies? It wasn't until her voice started to get hoarse, and he almost couldn't hold back from breaking his promise to her, that Huo Yuzhen decided to stop. All right, it's enough. Grandma should be gone by now. Lin Xiaoqi sighed in relief. She's finally gone. Her hoarse voice was strangely cute. Huo Yuzhen couldn't help but slightly curve the corner of his lips. The scene was over, and he needed to leave. He moved off Lin Xiaoqi and sat on the edge of the bed, pretending to fumble around for the clothes he had just taken off. Lin Xiaoqi, now free, immediately turned on the bedside lamp, sitting up on the bed and staring at Huo Yuzhen. She looked at his broad back and the faint outline of his abs, and her cheeks grew even hotter. Her husband had an incredible physique, and he was handsome too. Aside from his slightly distant personality, he was nearly perfect. Lost in thought, she noticed Huo Yuzhen had found his pants from the bed and stood up to put them on. With his narrow waist, firm butt, and long legs, Lin Xiaoqi felt her blood rushing to her head. This must be what it feels like to be overwhelmed. Her face flushed, and she instinctively wanted to look down. But then she realized, he didn't know she was watching him, so she decided to take a few more seconds to stare boldly. she became even more blatant in her observation. Originally, she wanted to ask him why he didn't bring his cane when he came in, and how he seemed so familiar with the place. Did he live here before and get used to it? But those questions seemed less important now. Since he was so at ease, it must have been because he was familiar with the house. As Lin Xiaoqi blatantly stared at Wei Yuzhen, he could feel it from the corner of his eye. His eyebrows slightly raised, as if wondering what kind of expression she would have if he asked her if she had seen enough. After a brief hesitation, he decided not to say anything. It was probably better to keep the eye thing a secret for now. After all, whether she could be trusted was still to be observed. Just then, a knock on the door interrupted Wei Yuzhen's thoughts. It was Uncle Ding, the butler. Wei Yuzhen responded, "The door's not locked." Uncle Ding entered the suite and stopped at the bedroom door. He informed Wei Yuzhen that Grandma had already left, but suggested that the young master stay the night and, in fact, stay here for the time being. Wei Yuzhen asked why, and Uncle Ding hesitated before saying that Grandma had gone to the villa across the street. The sudden change left Wei Yuzhen silent. Lin Xiaoqi also fell into silence. She knew wealthy families had a lot of property, but she never expected that the villa across the street was also Grandma's. With this, would she have to perform bed scenes with Wei Yuzhen every night? She glanced at Wei Yuzhen, hoping he would have a good solution. Instead, he said, "Since Grandma is keeping an eye on me, I'll just stay here from now on." Lin Xiaoqi's mouth twitched. So this was it, they were already starting to live together? After Uncle Ding passed on the message, he left. Lin Xiaoqi quickly collected her thoughts and said, "I'll go to the guest room. You stay here." Since Grandma had already checked up on them, she probably wouldn't come again tonight. Wei Yuzhen seemed to think for 2 seconds before nodding. All right. After that, he took a couple of steps back, bumped into the edge of the bed, and sat back down. The pants he had just picked up quickly slipped off his long legs. Then, without any hesitation, he lay down. His quick movement caught Lin Xiaoqi off guard, and she almost jumped out of bed. Just as she was about to grab her pillow and blanket to leave, Wei Yuzhen had already laid down with her pillow under his head, her blanket covering him, and he closed his eyes. Lin Xiaoqi also closed her eyes. Well, whatever. What could she do, argue with a disabled person? Should she let him go to the wardrobe and look for his own blankets? She sighed, both sympathetic and resentful as she glanced at the person on the bed, then went to the storage room, grabbed some spare blankets and pillows, and quietly went to the next bedroom. The moment she left, Wei Yuzhen opened his eyes and reached out to turn off the bedside lamp. He had been watching her as she walked out of the room, her slim figure carrying a pile of blankets and pillows, which made her look somewhat pitiful. In truth, he had wanted to stop her, ask her to stay here, and let him go out instead. But he was worried it would scare her. Chapter 6 Nameless Vinegar. Just like that, Wei Yuzhen also moved into this small villa. The two of them used different suites, so there was no inconvenience in their lives. Lin Xiaoqi got up very early every day, ran around the lake in the community twice, exactly 5 kilometers, came back to take a shower, took a box of milk and a boiled egg, rode her bicycle to class. She had classes in the afternoon these days, so she ate in the cafeteria at noon, and when she returned home in the evening, she had some fruit or snacks. So after living together for a few days, she and Wei Yuzhen had never eaten a meal together. They even rarely met. Occasionally, when she passed by his suite, she heard him talking on the phone with someone, which was a bit like a meeting. But as far as Lin Xiaoqi knew, Wei Yuzhen did not work in his own company. Now it seems that he has his own business. As for what he did specifically, Wei Yuzhen did not mention it, so Lin Xiaoqi did not ask much. But she admired him a little more in her heart. What does it mean to be physically disabled but mentally strong? This is a living example. People can't see, but they are still working hard. What reason do people like her who have all their limbs intact have to be lazy? She only occasionally thinks of that night when he pressed on her and asked in a hoarse voice whether he really wanted to do it. Lin Xiaoqi felt her ears burning, and always felt that he really wanted to do it at that time. This man may not be as cold as he seems. During this period, Grandma didn't come again, and Wei Yuzhen didn't grab Lin Xiaoqi to act again. However, Lin Xiaoqi took the initiative to visit Grandma across the street once, talked with her in the yard for a while, and trimmed some flowers and plants. Lin Xiaoqi found that Grandma was a very humorous person. She laughed with full energy and didn't look like she was at the end of her life. But it was rare to accompany Grandma, so she didn't want to mention her illness, so she gave up. Later, Grandma mentioned the matter of holding a great-grandson, which scared Lin Xiaoqi and made her come back quickly. She and Wei Yuzhen would not have children, and she really didn't know how to respond to her grandmother's earnest expectations. A cold wave hit, and the yard was covered with fallen leaves. The weather was a little colder. Lin Xiaoqi put on a thick hoodie and went to class early in the morning as usual. Wei Yuzhen also went out to do some work. In the evening, he returned home and passed by Jiangcheng University. Assistant Ling Yao slowed down the car and said, "This is the young ladies' school. It should be almost time to finish school. Do you want to wait and go home together?" Wei Yuzhen remembered that his grandmother had been talking about him the day before, asking him if he had picked up Xiaoqi from school. He was afraid that if he lied, his grandmother would ask him more questions, so he simply told the truth that he had never picked up Xiaoqi. Grandma immediately scolded him, saying that he was not doing his job as a husband and why he had never picked up Xiaoqi once. Thinking about his grandmother's lecture, and remembering that Lin Xiaoqi didn't seem to ride a bike in the morning, Wei Yuzhen said lightly, "Then wait for her." It got dark quickly. When the bell rang for the end of get out of class in the Jiangdar teaching area, it was completely dark. Students also walked out of the school gate one after another, and the flow of people gradually increased. But as soon as Lin Xiaoqi appeared, Wei Yuzhen saw her first. She tied a high ponytail and carried a big black painting bag. She walked out of the school gate briskly like a lively kitten. It might be a bit cold when she came out, so she shrank her neck and pulled up the hood of her sweater and put it on. There were 2 furry cat ears on the hood, and as she walked, the cat ears jumped and bounced, which was unbelievably cute. Afraid that Lin Xiaoqi would not recognize his car, Wei Yuzhen took out his mobile phone and wanted to call her. But before the call was dialed, Wei Yuzhen saw her walk across the street to a black coupe. A tall man with a stern face leaned against the car door. When Lin Xiaoqi approached, the man smiled on his stern face, pulled her cat ears, and rubbed her head. As if he could see that she was cold, he gave her his scarf. And Lin Xiaoqi accepted all of this naturally. Wei Yuzhen put down his phone, looked at the man, squinted his eyes, and suddenly felt bored. He said to the assistant, "No need to go over, just go home." "Yes." The assistant started the car silently, and before driving out, he said again, "Mr. Huo, look." Wei Yuzhen raised his eyelids and took a look, only to see that the man who had just talked to her had returned to the car. But Lin Xiaoqi didn't get in the car. She stood by the car door and waved goodbye to the man. I don't know what the man said to her. Since the man drove away, Lin Xiaoqi's originally happy expression disappeared. She looked at the direction where the man left and pursed her lips. She waited until the man's car disappeared into the night before she moved her feet. At the same time, she took out her cell phone and walked towards the bus stop while talking on the phone. She looked like she was crying. The assistant looked back at Wei Yuzhen. "Mr. Huo, the temperature has dropped today. It's so cold. Waiting for the bus is a pain." Wei Yuzhen glanced out of the window. The cold wind was howling, and the dry branches were shivering in the wind. Some dead leaves lingering on the branches finally couldn't stand it and fell to the ground reluctantly. He cast his eyes to the bus stop not far away, looking at the little girl with a dark look. She stood in the cold wind, not knowing whether she was crying or cold, with a red nose, like a stray cat. Wei Yuzhen was silent for 2 seconds and nodded to the assistant. When the car stopped in front of Lin Xiaoqi, she had just finished the call and put away her phone. But she was thinking about the call she had just made and didn't care about the car in front of her. Until Wei Yuzhen lowered the window and said in a cold voice, "Get in the car." Lin Xiaoqi then realized that the car parked in front of her belonged to her husband. Chapter 7. If you have someone you like. Lin Xiaoqi opened the back door, got in the car, and sat next to Wei Yuzhen. As soon as she got in the car, she felt the low pressure of the man next to her. Not knowing what was wrong with him, she simply greeted him and said, "What a coincidence, I didn't expect to meet you here." Wei Yuzhen said, Lin Xiaoqi only felt a ball of cold air around him, and was so scared that she didn't dare to speak casually. It was still the front assistant Ling Yao who was smart enough to see that the president wanted to ask something, but was too embarrassed to speak. Assistant Ling said naturally, "Hey Xiaoqi, I saw you and Mr. Feng together just now. Are you friends?" Lin Xiaoqi asked in surprise, "Yes, you know him too." Assistant Ling smiled and said, "How could I not know a person like Mr. Feng? That is the eldest son of the wealthy Feng family. He is also a young and promising man. He inherited the family business early and became the youngest director and executive president of their phone family. But that guy is arrogant and has a ruthless style of doing things. He is definitely not a good person. In short, he is completely different from Xueqi. After listening to Ling Yao's words, Lin Xueqi proudly replied, "That's right, he is very good." Assistant Ling's heart sank when he heard her answer. Boss Wu obviously cares about the relationship between Mr. Feng and Xueqi. Xueqi also praised Feng Ziji in front of the president. Isn't this adding insult to injury? Ling Yao glanced at Wei Yuzhen in the rearview mirror. Although he was wearing sunglasses, his face was obviously colder. Lin Xueqi continued to answer his previous question. Our two families were neighbors before, and we have known each other for many years. He had no choice but to continue to say to Xueqi, "Is that so? No wonder young Master Feng treats you like a younger sister." Lin Xueqi smiled and said, "Brother Ziji is very caring for me." Ling Yao's original intention was to smooth things over for Xueqi, so that Mr. Huo would not be jealous. As a result, Xueqi's sweet brother Ziji made Wei Yuzhen's face visibly darker. Ling Yao felt that his words were simply adding fuel to the fire, so he simply shut up. Let the couple solve their own problems, and it is inconvenient for an outsider like him to continue talking. On their way back, Wei Yuzhen had a dark face, as if the whole world owed him money. The darker his face, the less Lin Xueqi dared to talk to him. The less he talked to him, the darker his face became. It was like this until she got off the car and entered the house. Lin Xueqi was as if she had been pardoned. She lowered her head and walked quickly, just wanting to get away from Wei Yuzhen's low pressure as soon as possible. However, before going upstairs, Wei Yuzhen stopped her. "We are in a formal marriage. In principle, I will not stop you from having a boyfriend, as long as you don't show off too much." Lin Xueqi was stunned, reacted for a moment, and nodded, "Yeah, me too." Wei Yuzhen, ? Lin Xueqi saw that his face was not good, and quickly added, "If you have someone you like, it doesn't matter if you show off." "I don't care." Wei Yuzhen was very suspicious, which sentence he had just expressed had these meanings. "What I mean is, if you want to have a legitimate relationship with the person you like, wait until we get divorced. I don't want any bad rumors during our marriage." Lin Xueqi was still wondering, why did he suddenly set up rules? But seeing Wei Yuzhen's bad face, he didn't say much and agreed readily, "Okay, I'll pay attention next time." Wei Yuzhen stared at Lin Xueqi's back as she went upstairs, feeling extremely angry. So she acquiesced. However, the two wanted to be superficial couples, but Grandma wouldn't allow it. The next morning, Wei Yuzhen was holding a morning meeting in the study, and Grandma suddenly appeared at the door with a cane, looking angry. On further questioning, it turned out that Xueqi was going to visit her parents' graves early in the morning, and she met Grandma when she went out, so she told her grandma. Grandma immediately asked her to wait downstairs, and then went upstairs to find Wei Yuzhen directly. The cemetery is so far away. Even if she doesn't take the initiative to look for you, shouldn't you, as a husband, drive to see her off? Grandma paused and said, "Besides, even if Xueqi's parents are dead, they are still your parents-in-law. Shouldn't you go to pay your respects?" Wei Yuzhen had to explain that he really didn't know Xueqi was going to the cemetery today, and he had to pretend to be blind now, and it would be easy to reveal his flaws when he went out. Then don't pretend. Grandma hates people lying the most in her life. Now, you cooperate with her every day to act and deceive Xueqi. Why don't you go downstairs and confess to Xueqi now? Chapter 8. We're going to divorce anyway. Wei Yuzhen was embarrassed by the old man's scolding, so he had to comfort his grandmother and told her not to be angry. The project he was preparing was very important and he must not let the news leak out. He should tell Xueqi later. Grandma glared at him and said, "I don't care about you. Hurry up and change your clothes and go with Xueqi." Wei Yuzhen had no temper even after the old man spoke. He had to let the vice president preside over the meeting, and then put on a solemn black suit, sunglasses and a guide stick, and went to the cemetery with Lin Xueqi. On their way, Wei Yuzhen was thinking about work, while Lin Xueqi was staring out the window in a daze. The two of them didn't say a word along the way. The cemetery was on the mountain. After the car stopped at the parking lot at the foot of the mountain, the two got out of the car and walked up the mountain. Lin Xueqi carried a canvas bag on her shoulder. She held two bunches of small white flowers in one hand and gently held Wei Yuzhen's wrist with the other hand, leading him forward. Wei Yuzhen wore sunglasses and held a guide stick, tapping the ground, pretending to be blind out of boredom. The mountain was foggy, and the quiet cemetery was even more quiet and cold. Lin Xiaoqi's mood became more and more sad. Other girls happily took their boyfriends home to meet their parents, and then held a lively wedding and entered into marriage with the blessings of their parents. But she could only take her newlywed husband to her parents' graves to burn paper and confide. Not to mention, she was forced to marry herself in a hurry due to the situation. But looking at the man who was quietly accompanying her, she was content. Anyway, she did not meet a bad person. Grandma would treated her very well, and the servants at home did not look down on her. Although her husband was a little cold, he was still polite to her. She had nothing to be dissatisfied with. In this way, Lin Xiaoqi led Wei Yuzhen to the grave of her parents. "We're here," she said to Wei Yuzhen. Wei Yuzhen put away his guide stick and stood in front of the grave. On the tombstone was a photo of a young man and woman. The man was sunny and handsome, and the woman was beautiful and generous. Wei Yuzhen retracted his gaze and looked at the girl beside him silently. She was very good at growing up. Her handsome eyebrows and high nose bridge were inherited from her father, and her small mouth and oval face were inherited from her mother. Together, they were very beautiful and attractive. In fact, Wei Yuzhen had some impression of Lin Xiaoqi's parents. They had been to their Huo family as guests. At that time, Wei Yuzhen was only 8 or 9 years old, and Lin Xiaoqi might not have been able to walk yet. He had no impression of Lin Xiaoqi, but he remembered that Uncle Lin was a handsome and cheerful man, tall and straight. Aunt Lin was more gentle, spoke softly, and smiled. At that time, he would never have thought that they would die young. He would never have thought that one day he would marry their daughter. Lin Xiaoqi had squatted down and began to place offerings and flowers. When everything was arranged, she raised her red eyes and said softly to the cold stone tablet, "Dad, Mom, I'm here to see you." Just after saying this, she couldn't continue, her throat choked, and hot tears rolled down. She wiped away her tears, calmed down, and continued. "I brought someone to see you today. By the way, you may have seen him." She took out a white handkerchief from her pocket, gently wiped the tombstone, and continued, "His name is Wei Yuzhen, grandson of Grandma Huo, and my current husband." She smiled lightly, shy, and a little lonely and desolate. "He is a very good person, and he treats me well. You can rest assured." Hearing the girl say this, Wei Yuzhen suddenly felt a little guilty. Since they got married, except for the night when Grandma checked in, he had never even stepped into her room, let alone treated her well. Wei Yuzhen couldn't help clearing his throat and whispered, "Don't lie to the dead." Lin Xiaoqi was stunned and looked back at him in confusion. "I haven't done anything for you," Wei Yuzhen added. Lin Xiaoqi raised her eyes and looked at him. Because she had cried, her eyes were brighter, and there was a gentle and fragmented light in them, which made Wei Yuzhen's heart move slightly. Fortunately, she was wearing sunglasses, otherwise at this moment, he would have exposed what he could see with his eyes. Lin Xiaoqi said to him, "You helped me a lot by marrying me. After marriage, you respected my wishes, did not force me to accept you, and gave me money to spend. Isn't this good enough? You are content." When saying this, Wei Yuzhen's tone was softer. She smiled lightly, "It's the truth." "Well, you continue." She turned her head to look at the stone tablet again, and then talked to her parents. She said that she got a first-class scholarship this semester, and her paintings were sold at a higher price, so she could be self-reliant. She also said that her marriage would not delay her studies, so her parents could rest assured. Wei Yuzhen only then realized that she made extra money by drawing illustrations. From her tone, she must have been doing this part-time job for quite a long time. Thinking of her frankness and independence when she refused his money on the wedding day, Wei Yuzhen had a better impression of this girl. She finally finished and said to Wei Yuzhen, "Say hello to your parents too." Xiaoqi thought he didn't want to say hello, so she stood up and whispered in his ear, "We are going to divorce anyway. If you are not used to it, you don't have to call your parents. Let's just bow to my parents." Originally, the words "parents" were brewing on the tip of his tongue, but she said, "We are going to divorce anyway," which made Wei Yuzhen swallow his words back. Chapter 9: The Person Living in Her Heart. Wei Yuzhen didn't say "parents" in the end, but just bowed to the tombstone with Lin Xiaoqi. After the worship, Lin Xiaoqi cleaned up the sundries in front of the tomb and said to him, "Wait for me for a moment, I have a friend to pay tribute to, his tomb is nearby, I will be back soon." Wei Yuzhen nodded. Lin Xiaoqi thought about it and asked another question. You are alone, you won't be scared, right? Mainly thinking that he can't see, it's pitch black around him, it will be more terrifying to stay in the cemetery, right? If he is afraid, Lin Xiaoqi can take him with him. Fortunately, Hui Yuzhen is very calm and said, it's okay, anyway, I can't see whether it's a human or a ghost. When he said this, Lin Xiaoqi felt a chill on his back. Then I'll go and come back quickly. Lin Xiaoqi wrapped her coat, walked away from Hui Yuzhen, and walked quickly to the last seat in this row of tombs. She stopped at the end of this row of tombs and looked at the handsome man with a gentle smile on the tombstone photo. The tears that had just been wiped away blurred her vision again. She wiped away her tears with the back of her hand silently, squatted down, placed flowers in front of the tomb, and then picked up the fallen leaves around the tombstone and the sundries blown by the wind one by one into the plastic bag she carried with her. I didn't want to see you before because I always felt that you were still alive, but it's been almost 3 years, I should give up. Lin Xiaoqi couldn't help choking. But many things are so helpless. You have to accept it even if you don't want to. By the way, I'm married. Incredible, right? I can't help it. After all, I have to repay the kindness of my uncle and aunt. But he's pretty good, he won't force me to do things I don't like. Sometimes, I feel that he is quite like you. A gust of wind rolled a dead leaf onto Lin Xiaoqi's arm, like some kind of silent comfort. Lin Xiaoqi gently picked up the leaf, and a tear fell on the withered leaf veins. She didn't say anything else, but there was a faint sob in the sound of the wind. Hui Yuzhen didn't know what she said to the tombstone. When she came back, her eyes were red, her nose was red, and she looked very depressed. Okay, let's go. She said softly, holding his arm. Hui Yuzhen opened the guide stick and asked casually, is it someone very important to you? She was stunned and turned to look at him. Probably didn't expect him to take the initiative to talk to her. If you don't want to say it, you don't have to say it. Hui Yuzhen added. Lin Xiaoqi lowered her eyes and walked forward silently. I thought she wouldn't answer, but I heard her whisper, if he was still alive, we might not get married. Really? Hui Yuzhen replied lightly, then you should be very sorry. She probably didn't notice the displeasure in his tone, her eyes looked at the mountains in the distance, and said softly, it's a pity. Hui Yuzhen suddenly thought of the guy waiting for her at the school gate. Since the person she liked had passed away, what was her relationship with that person? Why did she lose her soul after seeing that person? The young master Feng who was waiting for you at the school gate yesterday, I later heard from my assistant that you two looked very close, are you not boyfriend and girlfriend? She looked at him in surprise and said immediately, of course not. Brother Ziji is just my friend. She paused and explained, when my parents were still alive, he was my neighbor. Our two families had a good relationship. He also learned painting from my mother. He has been abroad in the past few years and just came back a few days ago. He came to the school to find me to tell me that my mother's paintings were plagiarized. Lin Xiaoqi's mother is good at painting, and Hui Yuzhen has heard about it from his grandmother. After listening to Lin Xiaoqi's words, he frowned slightly and asked more about her mother's painting being plagiarized. Lin Xiaoqi told him the whole story. Her mother loved painting when she was alive, but almost all of her works were never published. That day, Feng Ziji came to her and said that someone became a great painter by plagiarizing her mother's works, and held exhibitions and auctions, gaining both fame and fortune. As long as the original work can be found, it can be proved that the person plagiarized. But after her mother passed away, all their works were disposed of by her uncle and aunt. So she called her uncle's house to ask if they still had any paintings and how they dealt with those paintings back then. Her aunt answered the phone. She asked about those paintings, but her aunt said that those paintings were not valuable and it was troublesome to preserve them, so they were simply sold as scraps. Lin Xiaoqi was very angry when she thought that her mother's works were disposed of like that. She blamed her aunt for being indifferent, and hated herself for not being able to protect her mother's posthumous works. She was a little emotional for a while and couldn't help crying at the bus stop. Hui Yuzhen nodded silently, so that's how it is. Lin Xiaoqi probably guessed the awkwardness in his heart, and said to him straight to the point, don't worry, since we are married, even if it is just a formal marriage, I will not mess around. Hui Yuzhen said, and didn't say anything more. He just felt that he was too narrow-minded before, and his face was a little embarrassed. Then the two walked forward in silence, but Hui Yuzhen noticed that Lin Xiaoqi had been absent-minded since she mentioned Feng Ziji just now. I don't know if she was thinking about the plagiarism of her mother's paintings. Huo Yuzhen thought for a while and said to her, "Today, Grandma heard that you were going to visit the grave by yourself, and she scolded me. In the future, if you need my help or cooperation, come to me directly. I don't want Grandma to be angry." She looked apologetic and said that she would not tell Grandma about her schedule if she had known. After she finished speaking, she hesitated for a moment and then said, "By the way, Mr. Huo, I do have something that I can't do by myself right now. If possible, I would like to ask you for help." Chapter 10: A Head Full of Unspeakable Things. Huo Yuzhen nodded slightly. "Tell me about it. The person who plagiarized my mother's work just now is very mysterious. We only know his name is Fu Meng, a young man in his 20s, but no one knows his specific appearance and real name. Mr. Huo, you have many connections and resources. Can you help me find out?" This is not a big deal, but Lin Xiaoqi's address to him makes him uncomfortable. "I'll have someone investigate. Then I'll trouble you, Mr. Huo." Huo Zhixiao frowned. "Since we're married, don't use Mr. Huo and you anymore. If Grandma hears it, I won't be able to explain it." After he finished speaking, the girl nodded seriously. She thought for 2 seconds. "You're older than me, so can I call you Brother Yu in the future?" The word brother softened Huo Yuzhen's heart a little, and he glanced at her lightly. "It's all right. Okay, Brother Yu." Her smile was clean and her eyes were clear. Huo Yuzhen was infected by her and unconsciously raised the corners of his lips. That night, Huo Yuzhen contacted his assistant Ling Yao and asked Ling Yao to help him investigate the painter named Floating Dream. Ling Yao said that he had really paid attention to this person, because a girl he liked before admired that person's paintings for a while and wanted to find that person to paint a portrait. But Ling Yao still couldn't get in touch with the painter, who obviously didn't want to reveal his true identity. Huo Yuzhen guessed that this matter would be difficult, so he didn't want to get the result immediately, so he told Ling Yao to try his best to investigate and report any news in time. At the same time, he also asked Ling Yao to find out the painter's recent exhibition plan, and it would be best to find out when the man's works would be auctioned next time. Ling Yao didn't ask more questions and agreed to them one by one. After the call, Huo Yuzhen took a shower and went to bed. That night, he dreamed of Xiaoqi. In the dream, he gave Lin Xiaoqi a diamond ring. She opened the jewelry box and saw the ring, but she didn't feel too surprised, but a little guilty. She said, "I'm sorry, Brother Yu, I already have a ring on my hand." After that, she raised her hand and showed him the diamond ring on her ring finger. "This is a gift from my ex-boyfriend. I promised him that I would never take it off." Huo Yuzhen immediately put away the diamond ring and threw it into the trash can. Then he pressed on step by step until he pushed her to the bed. She leaned back and sat on the bed. He pressed her hands on the bed, leaned over, and stared at her closely. "If I don't do something, you can't remember whose wife you are now." She looked at him in horror and anger. "We are just a formal marriage. Then it will become a de facto marriage." He forcefully pushed her tightly closed knees apart. When he woke up, it was still dark. Huo Yuzhen lay on the bed soaked with sweat. Thinking back to the indescribable plots in the dream, he felt that his whole body was swelling and hot, but he had no way to vent. He sat up irritably, scratched his hair, went to the bathroom, and turned on the cold water. After standing under the cold water for a few minutes, his heart rate gradually dropped. After taking a shower, he wanted to continue sleeping, but the beautiful scene in the dream was lingering, and his mind was full of things that were not suitable for children, and the object of the inappropriate things was the girl who was separated from him by a wall. Later, he finally felt sleepy and heard a burst of brisk footsteps in the corridor outside. Huo Yuzhen put on a dressing gown and came to the window and looked down. It was just dawn at this time, and the courtyard downstairs was grey and blue. After looking for a while, a slender and slightly thin figure appeared in his vision. It was the girl who had been partying with him all night in the dream. She was wearing a white jacket on her upper body and black trousers on her lower body. Both were slim-fitting sportswear. She was walking through the courtyard and heading towards the gate. It was obvious that she was going to do morning exercises. It seems that she is still a girl who loves to exercise. If he doesn't have to pretend to be blind in the future, he can go running with her or something. When this idea came up, Huo Yuzhen laughed secretly. She was just a formal wife, and they would divorce sooner or later. He actually wanted to live with her. Chapter 11: The Name I Don't Want to Mention. Lin Xiaoqi came to the artificial lake, and after a simple warm-up, she started her morning run. While running, she thought about the plagiarism of her mother's paintings. That day, Fengzhi said to her, "The one who can copy your mother's works so similarly must have observed her painting for a long time. If your brother Beiqing hadn't passed away, I would have suspected that he did it." Beiqing. It's been almost 3 years, and every time Lin Xueqi mentions this name, she still feels a pain in her heart. Mu Beiqing is her parents' adopted child, 8 years older than her. He came to her house when he was 13 years old, and later he has been learning painting from Lin Xueqi's mother. He is indeed the person who knows her mother's works best. Not to mention that he had died in the plane crash. Even if he was still alive, he would never do such a thing as plagiarism. So who was it? Lin Xueqi was thinking about these things, and her steps became particularly heavy, and even every breath of oxygen she took became dull. After running around the lake, Lin Xueqi slowed down her pace, looked at the white villa in the distance, and thought of her current husband Huo Yuzhen. Yesterday, Huo Yuzhen accompanied her to visit the grave and promised to help her investigate the painter. Lin Xueqi was really moved. No matter what the result is, she has to show her gratitude for the help she received. How should she thank him? Huo Yuzhen is a rich young master who has seen all kinds of good things. It is unnecessary to give him a gift. Besides, she is also short of money and cannot give a decent gift. Then she should do something for him in person. It may not be worth money, but it must represent her sincerity. Lin Xueqi was thinking about how to thank Huo Yuzhen for his help while running, and she didn't notice that a silver coupe had been parked on the lakeside path for a long time. The man in the car had been looking at her for a long time. She had started her morning run, and he had just finished a party with his friends and was about to go home to sleep. It seemed that there was always a time difference between his and her worlds. "Master, aren't we leaving yet?" Xiemingzhi retracted his gaze and looked at Liu Bo, the housekeeper who was driving for him. "Are all the houses in this community sold out?" he said casually. "Yes, master, they were sold out on the day of the opening, but there should be second-hand ones." "Then help me find a house, I like this one." Liu Bo was slightly stunned and nodded. "Okay, I'll go and ask about it today." Xiemingzhi yawned and raised the car window. "Drive, I'm almost sleepy." Liu Bo responded and started the car immediately. Xiemingzhi closed his eyes and thought about his future morning jogging by the lake, and his mood improved a little. Speaking of which, this woman was the first one who could make Xiemingzhi want to jog in the morning. Of course, she was also the first one who made him want to get married. At the villa, Huo Yuzhen had just finished breakfast, and the nanny aunt Wan collected the dishes. He thought of Lin Xueqi who had not returned from her morning jog, so he asked Aunt Wang, "Did you save breakfast for Xueqi?" "Xueqi eats little in the morning, so I've prepared it all," Aunt Wang said, pointing to the milk and eggs on the cupboard. The servants around him knew what Huo Yuzhen could see, so he didn't pretend in front of the housekeeper and the nanny. He frowned and looked at the box of milk and boiled eggs. No wonder he was so thin, eating so little and doing high-intensity aerobic exercise every day. Huo Yuzhen said to Aunt Wang, "The soya batter sandwich you made this morning tastes great, make one for her too." Aunt Wang agreed with a smile and said she would prepare it right away. At this time, the door rang. Huo Yuzhen thought it was Lin Xueqi who came back. He was about to put on sunglasses to disguise himself, but found that the person who came in was Uncle Ding. He pursed his lips indifferently and put down his sunglasses. When Uncle Ding saw him, he hurriedly greeted him, "Master, I have something to tell you." Chapter 12. You should be more careful, master. Huo Yuzhen frowned. "What's the matter?" Uncle Ding quickly told Huo Yuzhen what he saw and heard this morning. Two things. First, he saw Xiemingzhi in the community. Afraid that Huo Yuzhen didn't know who he was, he reminded him, "It's Xueqi's ex-fiancé, the third master of the Xie family. He came to our community." Huo Yuzhen certainly knew Xiemingzhi. They were all children of a big family. Who didn't know who? Besides, Xiemingzhi is a famous playboy. Whether he comes or not, what does it have to do with me? Uncle Ding explained that it didn't matter, but Xiemingzhi sat in the car and watched Xueqi jogging for a long time. After listening, Huo Yuzhen frowned and looked at Uncle Ding. "So what?" "No, master, it's not over yet. I just went to the property to ask about the heating problem, and I happened to hear the housekeeper of the Xie family calling to ask about the property here. So I judged that Xiemingzhi might move in." Huo Yuzhen frowned. "So what?" Uncle Ding saw that he was not enlightened, so he analyzed it for him. The third young master first looked at Xueqi infatuatedly, and then wanted to move here to live, which meant that he was not giving up on Xiaoqi. Huo Yuzhen looked up at Uncle Ding, picked up the newly arrived financial magazine on the table, and turned a page. Xiaoqi broke off the engagement because she understood his character. How could he give that guy another chance? Uncle Ding shook his head and said that the third young master just loved to play, and those rumors were all made up by him to avoid getting married. Besides, the third young master was handsome and good at pleasing girls. But he was willing to get engaged to Xiaoqi. After Xiaoqi broke off the engagement, he was very unwilling. Because he was on vacation on a small island abroad at the time, and he had planned to come back to marry Xiaoqi, but he encountered a typhoon and returned a day late. Then Xiaoqi got the marriage certificate with Huo Yuzhen that day. Obviously, the third young master was unwilling. Xiaoqi is such a good girl. If the young master doesn't hurry up, there will be someone waiting to take advantage of the opportunity. I'm afraid. Uncle Ding didn't say anything more, and Huo Yuzhen frowned slightly. Speaking of which, he was more like taking advantage of the opportunity. If she knew that Xie Mingzhi was not a jerk, would she regret not marrying that guy? While he was pondering, Xiaoqi had already entered the house. Huo Yuzhen put on his sunglasses and looked at the girl walking towards him from a distance through the dark lenses. She walked in holding a bouquet of roses. Maybe because she had just exercised, her cheeks were rosy. Against the background of the flowers in her arms, she looked more energetic. She looked at the white note inserted in the bouquet of flowers, frowned, and said to herself with a confused expression, "What do you mean, who is it?" Xiaoqi is back. Auntie Wang next to her hurriedly stepped forward to take it and helped Xiaoqi take a bag of vegetables in her other hand. Auntie Wang looked at the rose in her hand. "Did you go to buy flowers so early in the morning?" Xiaoqi was frank, "It was just delivered by the takeaway. I signed for it, but I don't know who sent it." "Is there no signature?" Auntie Wang asked. Xiaoqi shook her head. "It's just Mr. Z, I don't know who it is." Auntie Wang smiled, looked back at Huo Yuzhen, and tactfully stopped talking. She turned to ask about the vegetables Xiaoqi bought. "Why are you buying vegetables again? What do you want to eat in the future? Just tell me and I'll buy it." Lin Xiaoqi smiled brightly. "The market is not far away. I just finished running and bought it." "Auntie Wang, please put it aside first. You don't need to clean it up. I'm going to make breakfast for Brother Yu." She turned to look at Huo Yuzhen. "Brother Yu, you haven't eaten yet." As Lin Xiaoqi spoke, she temporarily placed the big bunch of roses on the dining table and greeted Uncle Ding beside her. Uncle Ding smiled and nodded at her. Huo Yuzhen squinted his eyes and looked at the bouquet of red roses on the table. There was a note on the bouquet, which read, "Xiaoqi, I will wait for you at the finish line. Mr. Z." Xiaoqi couldn't guess who Mr. Z was, but Huo Yuzhen could. This cliché rose, with a sour message and a signature that made people speculate. Who else could it be except Xie Mingzhi, the third son of the Xie family with exaggerated behavior? Z is probably the first letter of the word zhi in his name. So, does Xie Mingzhi really want to pursue Xiaoqi? "Brother Yu." Xiaoqi called him again, looking back at the dishes waiting to be washed on the kitchen counter. "Have you eaten yet?" Huo Yuzhen looked at her deeply through his sunglasses and replied, "No." Uncle Ding was very perceptive and explained immediately, "That's what I just used for dinner." Lin Xiaoqi smiled heartily. "That's great, Brother Yu, wait for me for a few minutes, I'll change into clean clothes and come down to do it, it will be done soon." Huo Yuzhen nodded lightly. "No hurry." She ran upstairs in a hurry, just took 2 steps, suddenly remembered something, turned back, and took the bouquet of roses away. Looking at Lin Xiaoqi holding the flowers and walking briskly back to the room, Huo Yuzhen's mood changed subtly. Suddenly there was such a lively girl around him. At first he was not used to it, but gradually he liked it. However, she actually accepted flowers from other suitors in front of him. She really didn't take him, her husband, seriously. But then he thought that he and Lin Xiaoqi had agreed on a formal marriage, so he couldn't blame the girl for her frivolous behavior. Just thinking that 2 years later, this lively and cheerful girl might become the wife of the boy from the Xie family, Huo Yuzhen felt inexplicably unhappy. Chapter 13. Not like a blind person at all. A few minutes later, Lin Xiaoqi came downstairs in a hurry again. She had changed into a clean home clothes, and her hair was casually tied into a bun, which was quite cute. She put on an apron and went into the kitchen. Huo Yuzhen was sitting in the restaurant waiting for breakfast. In order to pretend to be blind, he couldn't even read mobile phone magazines, so he could only sit and wait. But watching the girl not far away cutting and chopping, busy, he didn't feel bored. When she started to roll the dough, Huo Yuzhen saw that she was making fresh meat wontons. A strand of hair fell down from her forehead disobediently, which might have made her face a little itchy, so she rubbed it with the back of her hand, and ended up rubbing flour on her face again. Just then, the sun shone in from the window and sprinkled on her, making her look warm. Huo Yuzhen suddenly felt that there was a sense of fireworks in this home. However, this little girl always made him feel that he couldn't see through it. Although she was cheerful and happy all day long, her happiness was like a false prosperity. Huo Yuzhen had seen melancholy in her eyes more than once, as if she could cry at any time. Is it because of her lonely life? Or because of the person she loved? Lin Xiaoqi didn't know what Huo Yuzhen was thinking, but she felt that his face was cold. She was afraid that he would be impatient, so she said that it would be ready soon and just needed to be boiled in the pot, so he didn't worry. He nodded and said lightly, "No hurry, take your time." Lin Xiaoqi lowered her head and continued to work. After that, Lin Xiaoqi speeded up the cooking speed, shortened the waiting time, and perhaps avoided the boredom of the young master. A few minutes later, 2 cooked wontons were served on the table. In the clear wonton soup, there were a few seaweeds floating. Before serving, a few green scallions were sprinkled as embellishment, which made people appetizing. She put the cutlery in Huo Yuzhen's hand, and put the bowl next to his other hand, and said with concern, "It may be a little hot, eat slowly. If you need my help, tell me." She was worried that Huo Yuzhen couldn't see and it was inconvenient for him to eat. While she was talking, he had already picked up the soup spoon, scooped a wonton accurately, and ate it. Don't say it, he doesn't look like a blind person at all. Lin Xiaoqi was wondering. Huo Yuzhen said, "I was not used to it before, but now I am used to it. Practice makes perfect." Lin Xiaoqi dispelled her doubts and smiled, "I haven't made it for a long time, I don't know how it tastes." Huo Yuzhen drank another sip of soup and nodded to her, "Not bad." She smiled with relief, "Then eat more, there is more in the pot." Lin Xiaoqi ran 5 kilometers and went to the vegetable market again. She was already hungry, so she ate a little faster. Huo Yuzhen ate much slower because he was not hungry after breakfast. Lin Xiaoqi guessed that it was because of his eyesight problems, so she was not suspicious. "Why did you suddenly think of making breakfast for me?" Huo Yuzhen chatted with her while eating wontons. "Yesterday you said you would help me investigate the painter. I didn't know how to thank you, so I thought, why not make you a meal of my specialty wontons?" Huo Yuzhen inexplicably thought of a scene where she was in the kitchen of the 3rd son of the Xie family, making breakfast in the morning sun. The nameless anger that had just dissipated suddenly emerged again, so she said lightly, "Just do it once." His casual tone and ambiguous words made Lin Xiaoqi's face suddenly hot. "I feel that my cooking skills are not as good as Aunt Wang's, and I'm afraid you won't be used to it. If you like it, I can make it every day. What you make suits my taste very well." She was slightly stunned after hearing this, and then her eyes curved up, "Then I will try to make it for you every morning. Not only wontons, I can also make other things." The ordinary and frank conversation was inexplicably heard by Huo Yuzhen as a bit charming. It was like being scratched by a kitten on the heart, it didn't hurt, just a slight itch. He also smiled at Lin Xiaoqi, "Then I won't be polite." Chapter 14. He didn't say that before. This was the first time the two had dinner together. Lin Xiaoqi always felt that only when they ate from the same pot could they be considered a family, so psychologically, the distance between her and Huo Yuzhen was shortened all of a sudden. She felt that he was not as lonely and difficult as she imagined. Although he didn't talk much and the process was awkward for a while, the two of them ate and talked, just like friends, and the nervousness in front of him before was also reduced a lot. At the end of the meal, Huo Yuzhen even drank the soup. Lin Xiaoqi was even a little nervous, thinking that she didn't do enough. "Are you not full? How about I cook you some more?" "No, I'm very full." Huo Yuzhen refused very straightforwardly. If he ate more, he would have to go to the hospital. However, the wontons she made were really delicious, it's true. And Huo Yuzhen ate 2 breakfasts in a row in order not to disappoint the little girl, it's also true. The next day was Sunday, and Lin Xiaoqi didn't have to go to school. She and Huo Yuzhen did their own things in their respective suites as usual. In the afternoon, Grandma suddenly came. Grandma came to find Lin Xiaoqi and gave her a task that was neither big nor small. Next Monday, which is the next day, is the birthday of Mr. Zhang Jinqian, an old friend of Grandma Huo. Grandma Huo was originally going to celebrate the birthday in person, but she just received a call that her sister in her hometown is critically ill, and she has to rush back soon, hoping to catch up with her last meeting. Anyway, she will definitely not be able to come back tomorrow. Grandma Huo wants to ask Xiaoqi to send a gift to Mr. Zhang on her behalf, and asks Xiaoqi if she has time. Lin Xiaoqi is free and willing to run errands for Grandma, so she agreed immediately and asked about the address of the banquet, the start time, and what she needs to prepare. Grandma Huo smiled and said, "Xiaoqi, you don't need to prepare anything. I have chosen the dress for you and it will be delivered tomorrow at noon. At 6:30 in the evening, the driver will come to pick you up. You just need to dress up nicely, deliver the gift, and say hello for me." After saying that, Grandma glanced at Wei Yuzhen, who was sitting next to Xiaoqi, and said to Xiaoqi, "Yuzhen's eyesight is not convenient, Xiaoqi, you have to go to the banquet by yourself this time." Lin Xiaoqi didn't want Wei Yuzhen to accompany her, so she said, "No problem, she can go by herself." Grandma nodded with relief, and then prepared to leave. The car was waiting outside. Grandma was stood up, and Wei Yuzhen and Lin Xiaoqi also stood up to see her off. Grandma asked Xiaoqi to stay, but said to Wei Yuzhen, "Yuzhen, come and see me off." Lin Xiaoqi saw that Grandma wanted to say something to Wei Yuzhen alone, so she stopped tactfully. Wei Yuzhen and his grandmother left the villa together and closed the door. His grandmother put away her smile and said to her eldest grandson, "Arrange someone to accompany Xiaoqi. Don't worry, I won't lose your granddaughter-in-law." Grandma was very dissatisfied with his playful smile. She glared at him and said, "So how long are you going to keep it a secret from Xiaoqi?" Wei Yuzhen saw that his grandmother was angry and quickly became serious. "I will tell you when I should." Grandma seemed to be speechless because of his anger. She shook her head and looked at the guide stick in his hand. "Okay, stop knocking. It makes me upset." Wei Yuzhen pursed his lips, put away the guide stick obediently, and walked out with the old lady's arm instead. After Wei Yuzhen sent his grandmother away and returned to the room, Lin Xiaoqi came over and asked him, "Grandma looked unhappy, and the way she looked at us was different. Would she be exposed?" "No, because Grandma's sister in her hometown is critically ill, and she thought of her own illness. She said she didn't know if she could see our child in her lifetime." Lin Xiaoqi felt sad. "What did you say?" "I told her not to think too much. After all, Grandma still has to take care of my and Xiaoqi's child." Lin Xiaoqi was stunned and looked at Wei Yuzhen. He didn't promise like this before. He said he would tell Grandma not to let her have a child so early. Chapter 15. Don't want to divorce. Lin Xiaoqi immediately asked him, "Didn't you say that I'm still in school and don't consider having a child for the time being? Why did you say that to Grandma again?" But he looked calm. "In the situation just now, I can't tell Grandma that we don't want to have a child within 2 years, right?" Lin Xiaoqi sighed. "That's right. I have to give Grandma some hope. What if 2 years later, we don't let Grandma hold her great-grandson in the end?" Lin Xiaoqi didn't say the rest. She believed Wei Yuzhen understood what she meant. Now the two promised Grandma, but if Grandma's life came to an end in 2 years, and the two did not let Grandma hold a great-grandson, wouldn't they deceive the old lady's feelings? Grandma should also leave with regrets. So is such a lie really well-intentioned? Wei Yuzhen was silent for a while, and seemed to be thinking about this question seriously. After a while, he said to Lin Xiaoqi with a serious expression, "Then how about giving birth to one?" Lin Xiaoqi felt like she was electrocuted, and her heartbeat almost stopped. Although she was mentally prepared when she married him, the two were only nominally married now. If she really gave birth, then she had to rebuild her mentality. "Are you sure?" Lin Xiaoqi asked timidly. Wei Yuzhen seemed to be in a dilemma. "Then what do you say?" The pressure suddenly came to Lin Xiaoqi. She thought for a while and said to Wei Yuzhen, "Why don't we stop lying, so that we won't fail in the future and make Grandma sad?" Wei Yuzhen didn't object, and said, "Then when Grandma comes back, you go and tell her that you have to finish your studies first." Lin Xiaoqi couldn't help but feel scared, and looked at the eldest young master with resentment. She thought, "You clearly said when we got married that you would tell Grandma. Why did it become me who told her?" The main reason is that she is easily soft-hearted, and as long as Grandma wipes her tears, she can't help but compromise. But he just promised so much, it's really hard to go back. Lin Xiaoqi sighed secretly. "Okay, I'll tell her when the time comes." Seeing that she actually agreed, Wei Yuzhen couldn't help but reflect on himself for a second. Isn't it not good to lie to a little girl like this? But he only reflected for a second, and soon he regained his composure. Anyway, they didn't plan to divorce, so whether to have a child was completely a matter of course. At 6:30 the next evening, Uncle Ding drove Shechi to their hotel for a banquet. The banquet was held at the most luxurious hotel in Jiangcheng. The car stopped at the door of the hotel. Uncle Ding handed the car to the waiter to park. He followed Lin Shechi into their hotel with the gift prepared in advance. Lin Shechi and Uncle Ding first came to the registration office to sign in, and then were led into the banquet hall on the first floor by a waiter in a tuxedo. Before the dinner officially started, guests in gorgeous dresses were scattered in groups of 3 or 2 in various parts of the banquet hall, greeting each other politely. On the ceiling, the huge crystal chandelier reflected countless bright lights, shining on the VIPs, making the men more noble, and the ladies were also jeweled, all dazzling. In such a contrast, Lin Shechi looked much lighter. The slim little white dress was neatly cut and simple, with a one-shoulder design, not exposing the chest or back. But it makes her collarbones look slimmer and her neck look longer. There is a slit on the left front side of the skirt, which is a little sexy but not too revealing, very decent. She has no jewelry on her body, which makes her look clean and neat. Lin Shechi's makeup is also simple. Her so-called makeup is just 3 steps: washing hair, trimming eyebrows, and applying lipstick. She is almost bare-faced, but she is very suitable for the clothes chosen by her grandmother. Standing among the guests with heavy makeup and luxurious clothes, she is like a clear stream, which is particularly eye-catching. There are even men who are quietly asking, who is this fresh and refined girl, and why have they never seen her before? At this time, Lin Shechi is walking lightly with Uncle Ding towards the seat arranged by Mr. Zhang for them. She doesn't know that she has become a scenery in the eyes of others. She doesn't know that there is a gaze that follows her all the time until she sits down and stays on her. Chapter 16. Want her, more and more. The one who was always watching her was her ex-fiancé, Xie Mingzhi. At this time, Xie Mingzhi was also sitting in the front row, separated from Lin Shechi by a dance floor. In fact, he had seen Lin Shechi a long time ago. When signing in, he stood behind Lin Shechi. She looked around at that time, but her eyes did not stay on him for a moment, and swept past. After that, Xie Mingzhi also entered the venue. After sitting down, he could just see her face, and then he couldn't help but stare at her. The brother next to him noticed his gaze, followed his line of sight, and touched his arm. Brother Zhi, that's your ex-fiancée, she looks so pure, how could you bear to let her go? The speaker was Xie Mingzhi's friend who usually played with him, the young master of the Jing family, Jing Peng. Xie Mingzhi smiled and ignored it. It's not that he is willing to let go, it's that the girl doesn't want to be with him. Jing Peng said with a wicked smile, Brother Zhi, the girl has such a good figure, it should be very enjoyable when doing that. Xie Mingzhi frowned and glared at Jing Peng, drink your wine, stop talking nonsense. They usually quarreled like this, they were used to it, so Jing Peng didn't take it seriously and continued to laugh. I'm just curious. We are all family at the table, share it. Xie Mingzhi looked at Lin Shechi in the distance. His friend's words made him a little distracted and his body slightly hot, but he couldn't imagine what it would feel like to do that with Shechi. However, Wei Yuzhen must have understood. However, Wei Yuzhen was a blind man. Even if Shechi had all kinds of charm, it would be a waste for a good girl to follow him. Thinking of this, Xie Mingzhi felt annoyed. If you want to know, ask Wei Yuzhen, why ask me? Xie Mingzhi drank the wine in the glass. But he was the eldest son of the Huo family, who dared to ask. They just agreed with a smile and didn't say anything. Then another brother next to him saw that Xie Mingzhi was unhappy, raised his glass to Xie Mingzhi, and comforted him. Women will remember their first man. Even if she gets married, she will remember you for the rest of her life. Xie Mingzhi smiled and drank another glass. Let alone sleep, he didn't even hold Shechi's hand. Just now, the girl's eye swept across his face and didn't notice him. Remember for a lifetime. I'm afraid she didn't remember it for a second. Xie Mingzhi continued to drink his wine, but the brothers next to him talked more and more dirty, all about Lin Shechi. It seems that the purer the girl, the more they want to know their wild side. But there are other guests around, and Xie Mingzhi noticed that someone was eavesdropping on the discussion here. As long as he doesn't clarify, after today's banquet, everyone will believe that Lin Shechi had sex with him before marriage. Maybe, she will be disliked by their Huo family, and it is not impossible that her marriage will break down. In that case, he will have a chance. Xiemingzhi thought about these things and looked at Lin Sheqi in the distance again. She had already sat down, and she happened to look up and meet his eyes. Her eyes were clear, like a pool of clear water. Xiemingzhi's heart beat faster. But the next second, she turned her eyes away and looked down at her phone. Xiemingzhi rubbed the wall of the cup with his fingers and said to the people at the table, "Don't guess, I haven't held her hand, don't say such things anymore, otherwise I won't bother with you, and Master Huo will have to deal with you." When these words came out, the brothers present were shocked. They are engaged, but they haven't slept yet, are you kidding me? And they haven't held hands, is this still the romantic Master Xie? Xiemingzhi sighed and put his glass on the table, so I'm very unhappy. I didn't get any advantage, but I was dumped. I should have returned home earlier. In a few words, he clarified that it was not that he didn't want Miss Lin, but that the girl didn't want him. And nothing really happened between them, because after the engagement, he has been traveling around and having fun everywhere. In fact, he and Lin Sheqi only met once, that is, before the engagement, when he went to school to see her. That time, Xiemingzhi did not reveal his identity, but just met her as a friend of a friend. When he was engaged, he was not present, but was on vacation abroad. It's normal that Lin Sheqi didn't remember him. When the young masters present heard that Mr. Xie was very sorry, they all comforted him, saying that women are like clothes, the old ones don't go away and the new ones don't come. With Mr. Xie's conditions, there is no shortage of women. Come on. Drink. Xiemingzhi drank another glass, and his eyes were a little blurry when he got drunk. When he looked into the distance again, he felt that the girl was even more hazy and beautiful, like a flower in the mirror. He really wanted this flower, and wanted it more and more. Chapter 17 Jealousy. When Xiemingzhi looked at Lin Sheqi with drunken eyes, a woman in a red dress sitting at the table next to him was also looking at him. The girl was Joanna, the daughter of the hotel boss, a typical rich lady. She and Xiemingzhi were childhood sweethearts and grew up together. She thought that Xiemingzhi would marry her as long as he got married, but unexpectedly, Xiemingzhi finally chose Lin Sheqi. Even if Lin Sheqi got married, he still missed her. Joanna also looked at Lin Sheqi. What was so good about Lin Sheqi that Xiemingzhi fell in love with her at first sight? Is it because of her pure and lovely face? Joanna curled her lips, picked up the table knife elegantly, and gently cut a knife on the white and smooth bowl-shaped cream cake in front of her. The cream cake was torn apart, losing its original fresh and lovely shape. Lin Sheqi sneezed twice in a row. She didn't know if someone scolded her or if she caught a cold when getting on and off the car. She should have listened to Uncle Ding and put on a coat over her dress before going out. Just as she was thinking about it, the banquet officially began. An old man in a red tang suit and with silver hair walked onto the stage and gave a thank you speech, thanking everyone for coming to support him, and so on. Lin Sheqi understood that this old man with a vigorous spirit and a loud voice was Uncle Zhang Jinqian. Uncle Ding whispered to her that after the old man finished his speech, she could find a chance to go up and give a gift, and then she could go home. Lin Sheqi nodded and waited patiently. She turned around inadvertently and her eyes met with the man opposite her again. If it was a coincidence just now, it shouldn't be this time. Why is this man staring at her? He looks pretty good, the kind of handsome guy, especially those peach blossom eyes, which look like they have hooks. Just based on his eyes, he can hook a little fangirl with just a finger. The key is that he looks familiar, as if she has seen him somewhere before. Just when she was confused, the man curled his lips and gave her a faint smile. Lin Sheqi frowned and immediately turned her eyes away. At this time, Mr. Zhang finished his speech and left the stage. Lin Sheqi no longer cared about the peach blossom eyes opposite, but only stared at Uncle Zhang's movements. As soon as she caught Uncle Zhang's empty eyes, she immediately went over, presented a gift, and conveyed Grandma Huo's blessings. After finishing their business, Lin Sheqi and Uncle Ding did not plan to stay any longer, so they left the banquet hall together. But just as she arrived at the hotel entrance, someone called out from behind, "Miss Lin, please stay." The person who called out to Lin Sheqi was a waiter in a tuxedo. When Lin Sheqi gave Uncle Zhang a gift, this person was beside him, helping Uncle Zhang to put away the gift. The waiter said respectfully that Mr. Zhang had a gift for Grandma Hua and asked Sheqi to take it back. There were too many people coming to congratulate him just now, so he didn't have time to mention this matter. He asked Sheqi to go to the warehouse with him to get it now. Since it was just to get the gift, Uncle Ding asked Sheqi to wait in the lobby and he could go by himself. Because Uncle Ding noticed that Xieqi was uncomfortable walking in high heels, and besides, it was not necessary for a little girl to move things. Lin Xieqi did have a sore foot. Although it was just 2 steps, she was not used to wearing high heels and her heels had blisters. So Lin Xieqi waited in the lobby, and Uncle Ding followed the waiter to get the gift. But it was during this gap that something happened to Xieqi. Chapter 18: A Step for Her. Half an hour later, Wei Yuzhen suddenly received a call from Uncle Ding. "Master, something happened." Wei Yuzhen's heart skipped a beat. "What happened?" "Xieqi is missing." Wei Yuzhen stood up from the sofa. "Aren't you always with her?" Uncle Ding said that Mr. Zhang gave a return gift, and he was afraid that Xieqi would be troubled, so he went to the warehouse to get the gift himself and asked Xieqi to wait in the hotel lobby. When he came back, Xieqi was not in the lobby. Uncle Ding called Xieqi several times in a row, but no one answered. Feeling that something was wrong, Uncle Ding quickly retrieved the surveillance video. In the video, he saw Xieqi sitting in the hotel lobby looking at her phone. Afterwards, a waiter brought Xieqi a cup of hot coffee, but accidentally spilled it on Xieqi's hand. Xieqi went to the bathroom. Uncle Ding went to check the surveillance in the corridor outside the bathroom again, but found that the camera had been turned to shoot at the ceiling. It did not record the situation in the corridor, but only recorded some sounds, which sounded like Xieqi screaming. As for the waiter who brought coffee to Xieqi, Uncle Ding asked the lobby manager and found that the man was not an employee of the hotel at all, but was just wearing a hotel work uniform. At present, the cameras at all exits of the hotel have been checked. No suspicious vehicles have left, and Xieqi has not been seen leaving the hotel. So she should still be in the hotel. But the hotel building has dozens of floors and there are multiple blind spots for surveillance. It is not so easy to find someone. Uncle Ding has notified Mr. Zhang and asked him to send more men to find him together. The police are also on their way and are expected to arrive at the scene in 1 or 2 minutes. Finally, Uncle Ding said with great guilt, "I'm sorry, Master, you gave Xieqi to me, but I..." "Don't think about it now," Wei Yuzhen interrupted Uncle Ding. "If someone wants to harm her, they will always find an opportunity. It has nothing to do with Uncle Ding. The most important thing now is to find Lin Xieqi. Do you have anyone you suspect?" Uncle Ding was silent for a second and said cautiously, "Master, Xiemingzhi was also at the scene. I noticed that he was always looking at Xieqi during the meal. I just asked the hotel manager and they didn't see the third son of the Xie family leave, but they didn't know where he was now." Wei Yuzhen's heart sank. Xiemingzhi was still coveting Xieqi. It is possible that he had an evil idea after seeing Xieqi alone. Thinking about what Xieqi might have encountered, Wei Yuzhen's blood was burning with anger. After hanging up Uncle Ding's phone, he stood in front of the window with a frown. After a few seconds of silence, Wei Yuzhen finally strode out of the study, got in the car, and headed straight for the hotel. The car sped away, and Wei Yuzhen only took 15 minutes to travel a distance that would have taken 30 minutes. While waiting for the red light on the road, he contacted his security assistant Di Jun and asked him to help him find Xiao Qi's whereabouts. At the same time, he also informed Uncle Ding that he would arrive later. When Wei Yuzhen arrived at the hotel, Uncle Ding was already waiting at the door. Di Jun told him the results of the investigation 5 minutes ago. Xiao Qi's location was basically locked, and the hotel manager would take him up later. As for how Di Jun locked the suspect, it was through the only surveillance. The man who pretended to be a waiter and approached Xiao Qi had trained with Di Jun to learn fighting skills. Later, Di Jun became Wei Yuzhen's security assistant, and the other person worked for another wealthy family. Therefore, as soon as Di Jun saw the man, he determined the identity of the kidnapper. Wei Yuzhen stopped the car, but before he opened the door and got out of the car, Uncle Ding stopped him. "Master, the banquet is still going on normally, people are coming and going in the hotel, and there are reporters in the corridor. You can't turn back once you take this step, so you have to think carefully." Wei Yuzhen understood what Uncle Ding meant. If he enters the hotel now, it means he is telling everyone that he is not blind, and it will be hard to hide his edge. "If I hadn't thought it through, I wouldn't have come here." After saying that, Wei Yuzhen pushed away Uncle Ding's arm and strode into the hotel. Chapter 19: Identity Exposed. There were already many media present on the day of the banquet, waiting in the corridor outside the banquet hall. As soon as Wei Yuzhen entered the hotel, he went straight to the elevator. But it was still seen by sharp-eyed reporters. Reporters swarmed in, surrounding the eldest son of the Huo family who had disappeared for 2 years with cameras and throwing all kinds of questions at him. Has Mr. Huo's eyes fully recovered? Was the accident 2 years ago really an accident? Is Mr. Huo planning to make a comeback with a new company? What direction will the new company be in? Is it semiconductors? Would you mind telling me in advance? The flashlights irritated Huo Yuzhen's eyes, and all kinds of questions rang in his ears. One reporter after another blocked his way, preventing him from entering the elevator. Huo Yuzhen suddenly remembered the time when he took over his father's company. He had just turned 18 at that time, and was still wearing a black scarf on his sleeves to commemorate his deceased father. Reporters also surrounded him and asked him, "Was your father's accident really an accident? You are about to take over your father's company. Do you have confidence? How do you feel about inheriting a group with a market value of tens of billions at such a young age?" He forgot what he answered that day, and only remembered the grief and regret in his heart. He had just had a big fight with his father. He already knew he was wrong, but he didn't even have the time to admit his mistake to his father, and he never had another chance. How does it feel to inherit a multi-billion-dollar group? When the reporters asked him these questions excitedly, they seemed to be expecting pride and joy to show on his face. But he hated this company. If it weren't for these assets, how could his father be assassinated? But this company is also the result of my father's hard work. When the 3 siblings of the Huo family separated, the family business was squeezed out of the family business by Huo Yuzhen's uncle and aunt. My father had to go out and start his own business, almost starting from scratch. So he secretly swore in his heart that he would protect the company no matter what. In the following years, with the help of my grandmother and the company's veterans, I became familiar with the group's business and gradually took over responsibility. The company's market value has directly approached 1 trillion yuan from tens of billions. Later, just when it seemed that the group was about to achieve greater success, it suddenly suffered a heavy blow. Its product failed, the market value shrank instantly, and its assets evaporated overnight. Huo Yuzhen himself nearly died in a traffic accident. Whether it is hundreds of billions or trillions, no matter how many years it takes to accumulate, bankruptcy can happen overnight. And all this is because someone is playing tricks in secret. So in the past 2 years, he pretended to be a blind man, lying dormant and accumulating experience, and finally turned around the dying company and brought it back on track. The hardships involved were only known to him. Now is not the best time for him to go public. According to his plan, he should wait another half a year until the time is more ripe, and then he will appear in the public eye with a new look and a company that can withstand more storms. But he knew that if he didn't come to save Xueqi in person, he wouldn't deserve her. If you lose your business, you can always start over, but if you lose the people you care about, no matter how much you regret it, there will never be another chance to make amends. Therefore, Huo Yuzhen only said to the reporters, "I will answer the business-related questions at the recent press conference. I am only here to pick up my wife today. Please make way." When the reporters heard that Huo Yuzhen had a wife, they were even more excited and started asking questions, wondering who the young lady was and when the two got married. But Huo Yuzhen didn't have time to pay attention to it. With the help of his bodyguards, he followed the cleared passage and entered the elevator. The moment the elevator door closed, all the noise was blocked outside. Huo Yuzhen stared at the constantly changing elevator numbers, thinking about the possible harm that Xueqi might encounter, and his fists clenched tighter and tighter. "Xueqi, I hope I'm not too late." Chapter 20. Take care of your little childhood sweetheart. When the hotel manager tremblingly opened the door of the top-floor presidential suite and Huo Yuzhen rushed into the room, Xueqi was lying on the carpet in the middle of the living room, motionless. Her face and arms were covered with shocking blood stains. The white evening dress that she loved so much was now stained with blood. Huo Yuzhen's heart was clenched tightly. Is it too late? Without thinking too much, he strode to Lin Xueqi and gently hugged her shoulders. He first tried her breath and found that she was still breathing, so Huo Yuzhen breathed a sigh of relief. "Xueqi! Lin Xueqi! Wake up!" The girl in his arms woke up, frowned, and looked at him weakly. "Brother Yu, why is it you?" I thought that after she woke up, she would hug him and say, "You are finally here," or cry and complain to him, asking why he came so late. Now it seems that the girl didn't expect him to come at all. "Did you expect it to be someone else?" "No, your eyes are inconvenient," she said, looking into Huo Yuzhen's eyes. He didn't have time to explain at this moment. He observed the bloodstains on her body and said, "Tell me first, where is the injury?" There was a lot of blood on her body, but it was hard to tell where the wound was. If he didn't know the extent of her injuries, he wouldn't dare pick her up casually, for fear of aggravating the injury. Lin Xiaoqi didn't seem to notice that his eyes had already been focused. After listening to him, her mouth drooped. "The injury is on the hand." Wei Yuzhen hurried to check her hands. There were wounds on both palms. The wound on the right hand was deeper and longer. Blood started to ooze out at the slightest movement. Looking at the bloody wound, Wei Yuzhen felt heartbroken. He quickly took out the handkerchief he carried with him and wrapped it around the palm of her right hand to temporarily stop the bleeding. She studied fine arts. I hope this injury will not affect her future creative career. Any other injuries? This time Lin Xiaoqi did not answer. She had fainted again. Wei Yuzhen took a rough look at other parts of her body. Apart from the wound on her palm, he didn't see any other injuries. He didn't hesitate any longer, took off his coat, wrapped it around her, picked her up horizontally, and walked quickly out of the suite. After leaving the suite and arriving at the elevator, Wei Yuzhen saw Xiamingzhi. He was leaning against the wall, a half-smoked cigarette in his hand. Xiamingzhi had obviously already known about his recovery of sight, so he was not too surprised. He focused all his attention on Xiao Qi in Wei Yuzhen's arms. His brows were furrowed, and his eyes showed deep worry. "How is she?" "You'd better take care of your little green plum." Afterwards, Wei Yuzhen ignored Xiamingzhi and directly carried Xiao Qi into the elevator. The elevator door closed, and Xiamingzhi outside the door had a gloomy look in his eyes. He recognized from the surveillance video the waiter who splashed coffee on Xiaoqi. He was the security assistant of Joanna, the daughter of the hotel owner. He suspected that Joanna had kidnapped Lin Xiaoqi, and he also knew which floor Joanna lived on, so Xiaoqi was probably in her suite. As for the motive for the kidnapping, Xiamingzhi has already guessed it. Joanna was his childhood playmate. Although she never confessed her love to him directly, she half-jokingly said something like, "If you are not married and I am not married by the age of 30, we will get married." So there is only one reason why Anna hurt Xiaoqi, and that is jealousy. When he confirmed that it was Joanna, he immediately ran up, but Wei Yuzhen had arrived before him. He could have played the role of a hero saving the beauty, but his chance was snatched away by Wei Yuzhen again. Of course, what surprised him even more was that Wei Yuzhen was not blind. What is Wei Yuzhen trying to do? Hide your edge and pretend to be a pig to eat the tiger? No matter what Wei Yuzhen wants to do, Xiamingzhi is only worried that Xiaoqi will face more dangers in the future if she follows him. After all, Wei Yuzhen's opponent should not be an ordinary person. Thinking of this, Xiamingzhi put out his cigarette. Before, when he wanted to win Xiaoqi back, he was a little conflicted and hesitant. After all, she was already married, and there was no point in getting too entangled with her. But now he doesn't think so. He would not watch such a good girl fall into Wei Yuzhen's hands. Chapter 21, Some Tastes Once Experienced. When the elevator reached the first floor, Wei Yuzhen wrapped Xiaoqi completely in his coat, making her look like she was asleep rather than injured. Then he held Xiaoqi in his arms, walked across the lobby, and walked quickly towards the car. The car stops right in front of the hotel. As soon as the staff in the lobby saw them coming out, they hurried to open the car door for them. They got in the car and closed the door, and everything went smoothly. By the time the reporters found them and ran out, the car had already driven away. Afterwards, Uncle Ding drove the car, with Wei Yuzhen and Lin Xiaoqi in the back seat, and they drove quickly towards the hospital. During this time, Lin Xiaoqi woke up and found herself lying on Wei Yuzhen's thighs. She must have been embarrassed and wanted to sit up, but was held down by Wei Yuzhen. "Lie down and don't move." Maybe his tone was too harsh, or maybe she was really uncomfortable. After that, Lin Xiaoqi really lay down obediently and fell asleep again after a while. On the way, Di Jun called and reported the situation to Wei Yuzhen. He has investigated the details of the incident and found out why the other party hurt Xiaoqi. The person who hurt Xiaoqi was Xiamingzhi's childhood sweetheart, Joanna. Joanna likes the third young master of the Xia family, but when she finds out that he is still thinking about Lin Xiaoqi, she becomes jealous and wants to ruin Lin Xiaoqi's face. When Joanna's knife stabbed at her, Lin Xiaoqi had both hands free, so she tried to block it and her palm was cut. At that time, Lin Xiaoqi had just woken up from a coma and had no strength in her body. She was not as strong as Joanna and blocked her first knife but not the second one, so she instinctively covered her face with her hands. Joanna probably suffered from hemophobia and fainted on the spot. Her bodyguards were also panicked and had to take her to the hospital immediately. But before leaving, one of the bodyguards knocked Lin Shechi unconscious with a palm strike. Then, Wei Yuzhen came. So Joanna, who hurt Shechi, is also in the hospital and still unconscious. After learning what had happened, Wei Yuzhen's face became even gloomier. After a moment of silence, he told Di Jun about his next plan. No matter how serious Shechi's injuries are, this matter cannot be let go, otherwise the other party will think that Wei Yuzhen's people are easy to bully. Anyway, he has decided not to hide his edge anymore, and this time is a good opportunity. After ending the call with Di Jun, Wei Yuzhen lowered his head and looked at the girl who was lying on his lap like a wounded little animal, with mixed feelings in his heart. After today, everyone will soon know that he has regained his sight. Xiaoqi definitely couldn't hide this anymore, and of course he didn't want to hide it any longer. What's more troublesome is that it is difficult for his life to return to its previous peaceful state. If Xiaoqi follows him, she will probably be implicated. No matter how strict the security is, it is impossible to help her avoid danger 100%. Moreover, overly tight security also means loss of freedom of movement. Maybe divorce is the best thing for her. But when he thought of her bright and sincere smile, her bowl of hot wontons, and the long-lost taste of home, Wei Yuzhen's hand on her shoulder tightened slightly. I have to admit that after spending these days with Xiaoqi, I can't bear to let go. Because some tastes, once you have experienced them, it is difficult to give them up, and you may even want more. At this time, Lin Xiaoqi was feeling groggy and dizzy due to the impact on her head. She sometimes woke up and sometimes fell asleep. She heard Wei Yuzhen talking on the phone with Di Jun. The sound that escaped from the phone sounded particularly clear in the quiet car. She also finally figured out why the girl kidnapped and hurt her. Later, Wei Yuzhen hung up the phone, and Lin Xiaoqi fell asleep again soon. When she arrived at the hospital, she woke up and realized someone was carrying her out of the car. She closed her eyes and felt that it was Wei Yuzhen who was holding her, but she felt that it was impossible. After all, Wei Yuzhen is blind and has difficulty moving, so they should be his subordinates. Maybe it's because the clothes on my body are his that I feel like I'm being held in his arms. Later, when the doctor was bandaging the wound on her hand, Lin Xiaoqi woke up for a short while because of the pain, and asked the doctor if she could paint in the future. The doctor said it should be fine, but I need to take good care of it for a while. The wounds were treated and the two pores were wrapped like dumplings. Lin Xiaoqi closed his eyes and sighed inwardly. The draft had been delayed for 3 weeks. He had wanted to finish it this week, but now it was delayed. Lin Xiaoqi closed her eyes for a while and fell asleep again. Since she had been knocked unconscious, a brain CT scan was arranged. Lin Xiaoqi vaguely knew that someone was pushing her into the radiology department. When she woke up again, she was already on a bed in the emergency room, waiting for the results of the X-ray. There were only her and Wei Yuzhen in the ward. Wei Yuzhen was sitting on a chair next to him with his eyes closed. Thinking that he was blind and in such an inconvenient situation, but still ran to save her in the middle of the night, Lin Xiaoqi felt more than just simple gratitude. Her frozen heart seemed to be melting bit by bit. At the same time, she seemed to feel another beating heart. Does he like her a little? Thinking of this, Lin Xiaoqi's face suddenly became hot. She quietly looked at Wei Yuzhen who was sitting next to her. At this moment, he was sitting in a chair with his eyes closed. With his slender legs and angular facial features, he gives people a feeling of sharpness and handsomeness even with his eyes closed, as if he is a deep and wise superior. If no one told him, who would have thought that he was a blind man? Just now, several women who came to the emergency room and young nurses cast envious glances at her. When Lin Xiaoqi looked at Wei Yuzhen like this, she couldn't help but feel her heart beating faster. She exhaled and subconsciously patted her cheeks with her hands, but when she thought of the wound on her hands, she had to put her claws down and reminded herself not to think too much. Chapter 22, Teasing. When Lin Xiaoqi woke up again, he found himself back home, lying on the bed in the bedroom. When she moved her hands, she felt the pain of the cut clearly. She looked down at her hands and found that she was still wearing the dirty dress. She jumped up from the bed and got out of bed. He stood up a little too quickly and his body swayed twice before he stood steady. At the same time, I also noticed that Wei Yuzhen was standing by the bedroom window, facing outside, making a phone call. When Wei Yuzhen heard the noise from her side, He turned his head and covered the microphone with his hand. Why did you get up? I'm so dirty, I need to take a shower. As she spoke, she glanced at the bed. Fortunately, there was an old blanket on the bed and her blood did not stain the white sheets. At this time, Lin Xiaoqi still thought Wei Yuzhen was blind, so she did not seek eye contact with him. While talking to him, she tried to use her disabled hands to take off her skirt. Brother Yu, today is really thanks to you. It's getting late, you should go to bed early. I'll go to bed after taking a shower. Wei Yuzhen originally wanted to turn around, but when he saw Lin Xiaoqi starting to take off her clothes through the reflective glass, he realized a problem. The girl had not noticed his eyes yet. Wei Yuzhen said to Di Jun on the other end of the phone, you take care of it first, and we'll talk about it later. Then he hung up the phone, turned his back to Lin Xiaoqi and said, I'll wait for you to finish washing before going back to the room. Wei Yuzhen followed the principle of not looking at what is inappropriate and did not look back at her. However, the overly bright reflective glass made it difficult for him to focus his eyes. Her slender figure wrapped in a fitted dress gradually broke free from the constraints of the fabric and appeared in front of Wei Yuzhen. The blood in my body gradually heated up, and the thoughts in my head began to change. This is his legal wife. If he hadn't said on the day they got the marriage certificate that they wouldn't sleep in the same room after marriage, she would have been his by now. In fact, formal marriages do not necessarily require different bedrooms. Since we got married, the only relatively intimate contact I had with my grandmother was that night when she came to make rounds. As a husband, isn't it too disrespectful to treat my wife like this? These thoughts appeared one after another in Wei Yuzhen's mind. It seemed that this gave him a reason to appreciate the beautiful body behind him that had just shed its girlish immaturity. Lin Xiaoqi's skirt did not fall to the ground. The zipper on her back got stuck halfway down, and with her hands wrapped in gauze, she couldn't pull it down. She had no choice but to come to Wei Yuzhen with a red face, turned her back and said to him, Brother Yu, can you help me unzip the zipper? It's stuck, my hands are not very convenient, and I can't open it. Before she finished the second half of her sentence, Wei Yuzhen's warm big hand was already on her waist. He held her slender waist, as if he was hugging her from behind, and then he slowly felt his way to her spine, and then climbed up along the spine, section by section, to find the place where the zipper was stuck. Lin Xiaoqi bit her lips slightly, and felt that as his palm slid, her heartbeat became louder, and her body couldn't help but tense up. His hand movements seemed a little clumsy and slow, and somewhat unhurried. If Lin Xiaoqi hadn't known that he was blind, she would have suspected that he was deliberately flirting with her. Lin Xiaoqi wanted to urge him, but was embarrassed because no one could see him. But strangely enough, when Wei Yuzhen was helping her, she always felt that there was a burning gaze staring at her body from behind. Lin Xiaoqi subconsciously reached for his collar, trying to hide the view in front of him. However, her hands were not convenient to use, and before she could grab the collar and lift it up, the zipper on her back hissed open. The skirt slid down and fell to the ground. Okay. A deep male voice came from behind her ear at close range. Lin Xiaoqi opened his eyes blankly and looked at the reflective glass in front of him. At this time, if Lin Xiaoqi raised her head, she would see Wei Yuzhen looking at her with a serious gaze. And he was ready to explain it all to her. However, Lin Xiaoqi never dared to look into his eyes, even though she knew he was blind. She only saw through the reflective glass with her peripheral vision that he was tall and standing behind her, who was petite, with their bodies almost touching. He was neatly dressed, but she was like a naked fish, with only a little bit of underwear covering her skin. She could even feel the heat radiating from Wei Yuzhen's body. This ambiguous warm touch made Lin Xiaoqi shiver. What else can I help you with? His voice was a little hoarse and his tone was a little seductive. No more. Lin Xiaoqi said quickly, lowered her head, said, thank you, then stepped out of the skirt that fell on the floor as if escaping, and walked quickly towards the bathroom. Standing under the shower, facing the water flowing down from above her head, Lin Xiaoqi felt even more helpless. She couldn't touch water with her hands. Even if she did, she would risk infection. Her hands were wrapped in gauze, so she couldn't wipe the blood off her body. At this time, Wei Yuzhen's voice came from outside. Can you wash it yourself? Well, I'll call Aunt Wen over later. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. What I mean is, isn't it inhumane to wake someone up so late to give her a bath? I didn't know it was so late. Lin Xiaoqi said depressedly, then I'll just take a shower. The person outside the door was silent for 2 seconds, then said, I can help you, if you don't mind. Lin Xiaoqi blinked and looked up at the ceiling of the bathroom. If she doesn't wash it clean, she will definitely not sleep well. This is secondary. The main thing is the bedding. She slept comfortably and wanted to buy one for herself. After checking online, she found that a 4-piece set cost tens of thousands of yuan. The fabric was expensive and could not withstand scrubbing. He couldn't see her anyway. Then, thank you for your help. Wei Yuzhen smiled, no trouble. Chapter 23. He saw it all. Lin Xiaoqi stood with her back to the bathroom door, and Wei Yuzhen walked in and stood behind her. He took a towel from the cart beside him, turned on the shower, and let her rinse under the water while he scrubbed her from head to toe. How should I put it? Lin Xiaoqi was a little confused during the whole process. I thought about asking him to stop because it was too embarrassing. But then I thought, he couldn't see it anyway, and I had already wiped most of it, so he could vaguely touch some things through the towel. Thinking of the towel, Lin Xiaoqi recalled the way he held the towel just now, which was very smooth and silky, not like a blind man at all. Maybe it was because he had lived in the dark for too long that he could take things freely like a person with normal sight like her? It's not easy. Wei Yuzhen washed her for a while, and Lin Xiaoqi got used to it and became calm. She closed her eyes and felt his gentle touch, feeling how soft and considerate he was. The last time she had someone bathe her like this was probably when she was a child, standing in the bathtub and her mother bathed her. It's been a long time since I've been treated so gently. This long-lost feeling made her gradually forget her shame, and she only felt sour in her heart. If the parents were still alive, would I be like this today? Thinking about this, my eyes couldn't help but become sore. When Wei Yuzhen applied shampoo to her hair and gently scrubbed it, Lin Xiaoqi said, "Brother Yu, thank you." Wei Yuzhen cleared his throat and said, "Well, actually, I didn't take good care of you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to suffer so much. And if you knew I could see, you wouldn't be so polite to me. It's not your fault," she said softly, then raised her two little paws wrapped like dumplings and said to him, "Brother Yu, now we really complement each other. I am your eyes and you are my hands." Wei Yuzhen looked at her silently without saying a word. After washing, Wei Yuzhen wrapped her body with a bath towel. When she turned to face him, he saw that Xiaoqi's face had turned red to her neck. No matter how easy it is to say, you will still be shy. The corners of Wei Yuzhen's mouth curled up slightly, and he avoided her gaze that occasionally drifted over and secretly cast towards him. It seems that the little girl was also secretly observing his reaction. Afterwards, Wei Yuzhen helped Xiaoqi blow dry her hair. He deliberately avoided mirrors or places that could reflect light on him, to prevent Xiaoqi from noticing that his eyes were focused. Xiaoqi will know about his eyes sooner or later, but let her sleep well tonight. During the time after taking a shower, Wei Yuzhen deliberately concealed the truth about his eyesight, and Lin Xiaoqi didn't notice it. After finally settling her down, the two said good night to each other and Wei Yuzhen left her room. After returning to his suite, Wei Yuzhen let out a long sigh, walked to the water bar, took out a bottle of cold water from the mini refrigerator on the bar, and filled half of it. Then he took off the top that was wet when he gave her a bath and threw it on the bar stool. Looking at the wet clothes, I remembered what I saw when I was helping her take a bath just now. She has fair skin, a well-proportioned, thin body, a flat belly, long slender legs, and particularly beautiful and smooth calf muscle lines, which may be related to her regular running. In short, Wei Yuzhen saw everything that could be seen and should not be seen. It's not that he was peeping on purpose, but it was unavoidable. Who made him so impulsive that he wanted to help her take a bath? The key point is, she actually agreed with such a broad mind. Although she really needed help, Wei Yuzhen was still surprised that she accepted his help. Was it because I was too naive and trusted him too much? I still had no feelings for him and just thought of him as a blind caregiver. Or maybe, is it possible that in Xiaoqi's heart, he is her husband, so he can help her do these things? Wei Yuzhen hoped it would be the last case. However, before considering these things, the first problem he had to face was how he would explain it to Lin Xiaoqi tomorrow when she found out that he could see. He sighed secretly and went straight into the bathroom. Wei Yuzhen took longer than usual to take a shower. When I came out of the bathroom, I felt a lot more relaxed, but I also felt more guilty about the girl next door. From now on, I'm afraid I can no longer look at her with a normal heart. Worried that he wouldn't be able to sleep, Wei Yuzhen drank a glass of whiskey before going to bed. But alcohol can sometimes add fuel to the fire. When he went to bed slightly tipsy, the things that came to his mind were even more excessive. That night, Wei Yuzhen inevitably had some dreams again. Unlike before, this time, the situation in the dream was more specific. Chapter 24, The Black-Hearted Man. In the other suite, Lin Xiaoqi was much more calm. As soon as Wei Yuzhen left, she rolled over on the bed, rubbed off the bath towel, and kicked the wet bath towel to the end of the bed with her foot. Then he clamped the quilt with his elbows and rolled over again, rolled up the quilt, and found himself back in the quilt. Lying comfortably in the bed, Lin Xiaoqi kept sighing that he was such a flexible little useless person. As for how to dress and wash her face the next day, she didn't think too much about it. Maybe tomorrow I will be able to move my fingers a little bit, and it won't hurt when they are pulled. She had just operated the mobile phone with one finger. The guide had asked for leave, so she didn't have to go to class tomorrow and could sleep until she woke up naturally. I even felt a little happy when I thought about not having to go to early classes the next day. The first big class was Introduction to Art. The teacher was an old professor. Because of his age, the students jokingly called him Grandpa. But this old man likes to interact with students very much. He asks questions all the time and always likes to ask questions to Lin Xiaoqi. Now it's okay. I can skip one class tomorrow. It's a blessing in disguise. His palm was still hurting, but Lin Xiaoqi was too sleepy and soon fell into a deep sleep. She also had a dream tonight. I dreamed that I turned into a cat, sneaked out to play, got covered in mud, and was caught under Wei Yuzhen's arm and brought home. As soon as he came back, Wei Yuzhen threw her into the bathroom and used a shower to wash the mud off her body. As she rushed forward, she turned into a human and squatted on the ground shyly. Then Wei Yuzhen carried the wet girl into the bedroom and threw her on the soft big bed. And at this critical moment, Lin Xiaoqi suddenly woke up. It was already bright outside, and the sun was shining brightly. She quickly closed her eyes and tried to complete the second half of the dream, mainly because she wanted to know what happened afterwards. Unfortunately, I can't fall asleep anymore and my dream can't continue. Lin Xiaoqi thought about it for a while and thought that the content of the dream must have gone beyond the syllabus. Due to the lack of relevant material, his brain could not continue to make up stories and he woke up on his own. But this can be considered as thinking about it during the day and dreaming about it at night. When she recalled the scene of Wei Yuzhen helping her take a bath the night before, it was still very shocking. I really don't know what was wrong with my head at that time, I actually let him wash it. It's because he is blind, otherwise Lin Xiaoqi wouldn't know how to face him in the future. Lin Xiaoqi sat up and tried to turn her neck. The place where she was hit still hurt a little, but it was much better now. He raised his two disabled paws again. It was aching slightly, but also felt much better than the night before. The fingers of his left hand could move through the gauze. So I used my left hand to help me put on my pajamas and went to the bathroom. I was even skillful enough to use the two fingers exposed outside the gauze to hold the toothbrush and brush my teeth. After doing all this, Lin Xiaoqi's eyes fell on his mobile phone. Now that my hand is disabled, it's difficult for me to take care of myself, but that doesn't stop me from playing with my phone. After all, there are still fingers that can move. So Lin Xiaoqi started to check her phone. I just opened a social software and was stunned for 2 seconds when I saw the piece of hot news that continued to gain popularity. The news said that the eldest son of the Huo family appeared at a banquet last night. His eyesight has been restored and he personally admitted that he is married. Lin Xiaoqi was afraid that it was another eldest son of the Huo family, so she quickly clicked in to take a look, and she felt terrible. She saw Wei Yuzhen standing in front of the flash, his eyes were sharp and his expression was fierce. That is to say, he could see it in his eyes when he was baiting her last night. Just as I was thinking about this, I heard familiar footsteps behind me. Lin Xiaoqi took a deep breath and turned around. She stared intently into the eyes of the man standing in front of her. He just stared at her calmly. This was the first time that Lin Xiaoqi had eye contact with her husband, this scheming man who was pretending to be a pig but was actually a tiger. You can see it. Right. You could have seen it last night. Wei Yuzhen smiled at her and agreed. Why didn't you tell me? He didn't answer immediately, but glanced at her hand first, as if to see if her injury had worsened. After confirming that she was fine, he walked to the window, faced outside, and looked at Lin Xiaoqi behind him through the reflective glass window. I thought you could tell, he said flatly. Lin Xiaoqi suddenly remembered that it was the same thing last night. He was standing in front of the window, looking outside, and she thought he was blind, so she took off the dirty clothes in front of him. He must have seen it all through the reflective glass in the same way. But he said nothing and just watched her take off her clothes. Even when she took the initiative to walk up to him and asked him to help zip up the door, he said nothing. He also touched her waist, from the waist all the way to the zipper. You did it on purpose, didn't you? How could you do this? Lin Xiaoqi's face flushed red, and she was so angry that she couldn't find any other words to scold him. Wei Yuzhen's eyes remained calm. He stared at Lin Xiaoqi with his deep eyes and said shamelessly, "You needed help at the time, and I continued to pretend to be blind. You were not so embarrassed, wasn't it good?" Lin Xiaoqi was completely stunned. How could someone explain his hooligan behavior so naturally? And how come she actually thinks it's somewhat right? But then in the bathroom, Lin Xiaoqi bit her lip, angry and annoyed, and could hardly continue speaking. Later, asking him to help with the bath seemed like inviting a wolf into their house. And I was so foolish at that time that I said, "I am your eyes and you are my hands." Oh my god. No wonder he didn't say anything at the time. Even if she was careless in taking off her clothes in front of him, and he didn't tell her what he saw right away in order not to embarrass her, what about the part about taking a bath later? It was Wei Yuzhen who offered to help her. Perhaps he guessed what she was thinking. He turned his head and said to Lin Xiaoqi, "Don't worry, I didn't look around." Lin Xiaoqi laughed inwardly. A scheming old fox like him wouldn't say anything even if he saw it, right? What had happened could not be changed. Lin Xiaoqi closed her eyes, controlled her emotions, and moved on. But she needed an explanation for the fact that he had normal vision. "So when exactly can you see it?" "I have always been able to see." He paused. "I just couldn't see clearly for 2 months after the accident, but then it got better." Although it was a good thing that he had normal eyesight, Lin Xiaoqi was so angry that she almost fainted when she thought that he had kept her in the dark all these days. She thought back to the day when she got her marriage certificate. She knew he couldn't see, so she would help him up wherever there were steps. Later, when Grandma came to check on him, he got on her bed without taking his guide stick. She explained that he had become familiar with the place after living there for a long time. "And that day I made wontons for him because I was afraid that he can TC and it would be inconvenient for him to eat, so I still wanted to feed him. And when we go out together, I will take the initiative to support him." But what about him? He just kept looking at her through the thick sunglasses, watching her act foolishly. Wei Yuzhen cleared his throat. "I can explain this matter." Chapter 25. This guy is so pretentious. Of course you have to explain. Lin Xiaoqi was rarely so angry. In her anxiety, she forgot about the injury on her hand and slammed her hands hard on the bed. The pain was no less than the night before. Lin Xiaoqi was in so much pain that she dared not move and kept gasping for breath. Wei Yuzhen came over with an embarrassed look on his face, held her wrist and looked at her hand. Fortunately, there was no bleeding. So Wei Yuzhen began to tell her how his company suffered a heavy blow 2 years ago, with its market value evaporating overnight and almost reaching the point of bankruptcy and liquidation. Later, he was ambushed by someone and had to hide his edge and pretend to be a blind man to escape the pursuit of his enemies. After 2 years of rectification, the company has transformed itself and is back on track, but the timing is not right now, so it has not been made public. He also said that before they got married, his grandmother wanted to tell her, but she interrupted her and said that she didn't mind his visual impairment. So her grandmother didn't say anything more. Because Wei Yuzhen told his grandmother not to tell anyone else. The same goes for the servants at home. They didn't want to deceive Xiaoqi, but Wei Yuzhen didn't allow them to tell her, so they kept it a secret from Xiaoqi together with him. After that, Lin Xiaoqi asked, "I'm not your competitor, why are you hiding something from me? I've always been cautious. We're not familiar with each other, and you suddenly came to propose to me, so I need to observe you. So now you have investigated and found that I am trustworthy." He smiled. "More than that." Wei Yuzhen smiled. "Nothing. If I tell her that he now not only thinks she is trustworthy but also worthy of being cared for, she will be even more afraid of him, right?" As for Lin Xiaoqi's thoughts after hearing all this, she felt that it was not easy for him either. On the surface, he seemed to be a wealthy and powerful young master, but in fact, he was surrounded by dangers. After all, who wants to pretend to be blind? If you think about it this way, you will understand him. As for the previous night, although he was suspected of taking advantage of her, he didn't do anything excessive after all, and Lin Xiaoqi didn't intend to dwell on it anymore. In order to save her, Huo Yuzhen even disrupted his disguise plan and exposed his true colors in advance. Thinking of this, Lin Xiaoqi felt even more touched. But she still said a little arrogantly, "Okay, since you saved me, I forgive you." Huo Yuzhen curled his lips slightly, "Thank you for your understanding." Having said what needed to be said, the two fell into a brief silence. The atmosphere was a little awkward for a while. Lin Xiaoqi didn't know what to do, so she tried to make the bed with her left hand, which was still able to move. She was struggling to pull the corner of the quilt to make it smooth when a big hand took the corner from her. Huo Yuzhen lifted the corner of the quilt and shook it, and the quilt covered the bed flatly. When she saw him, Lin Xiaoqi's heart fluttered inexplicably. She glanced at him. Still not used to him being able to see. Huo Yuzhen frowned and looked at her hands, and said, "If you want them to get better quickly, don't mess with them all the time." She nodded and agreed, "Oh." Huo Yuzhen's gaze moved from her hand to her face. Before their eyes made contact, Lin Xiaoqi lowered her head. She found that she could no longer look Huo Yuzhen in the eye. "As soon as we looked at each other, I felt like I was standing in front of him without any clothes." Neither of them spoke, and the atmosphere in the bedroom suddenly became a little strange. Fortunately, Lin Xiaoqi's cell phone rang at this time, interrupting the eerie silence. Lin Xiaoqi took a look and saw that it was a call from Feng Ziji. It was inconvenient for her to pick up the phone, so she pressed the speakerphone button. Seeing that she had no intention of driving him away, Huo Yuzhen picked up a book on her desk and asked in a low voice, "Can I read it?" She nodded. Huo Yuzhen sat on the chair next to her and started flipping through their books. She is still not used to the fact that Huo Yuzhen can see this. So when he was reading, Lin Xiaoqi couldn't help but look at him. Thinking about how he acted pretentiously when they were together in the past, she couldn't help but sigh inwardly. This guy is so pretentious. Why don't you say anything? Can't you hear me? Feng Ziji's voice came, interrupting Lin Xiaoqi's thoughts. I heard you. Is there something wrong, Brother Ziji? Let me ask you, are you feeling better? You know. Feng Ziji said that he was also having dinner at the hotel last night. There was such a big commotion that the police came. He found out after asking around. Of course, he also knew that she was rescued later. I see. Lin Xiaoqi said lightly that it was just a superficial wound and some bleeding, and it was nothing serious. Huo Yuzhen looked at her deeply. Yes, nothing was wrong, except that she couldn't take a bath by herself. Lin Xiaoqi noticed his gaze. Her face suddenly turned red, then she lowered her head and continued to make the call. Huo Yuzhen also shifted his gaze from her face to the book, with a hint of a smile on his lips. Feng Ziji asked again, "Why did you go to the banquet alone? When did you meet Mr. Zhang?" When Lin Xiaoqi heard this, she guessed that Feng Ziji didn't know that it was Huo Yuzhen who rescued her last night. Because the media reported that Huo Yuzhen went to pick up his wife, but did not say who his wife was. And when Huo Yuzhen carried her away in the end, it seemed that he was not photographed by the media. Thinking of what Huo Yuzhen said, that he didn't want to make their marriage public, he said to Feng Ziji, "I don't know Uncle Zhang. I went there to deliver a gift for the old lady who lives across from me. I wanted to come back right after delivering it, but I didn't expect this to happen." Huo Yuzhen flipped back another page. Lin Xiaoqi's shoulders trembled and she looked at him silently. Chapter 26 Confess Now. Feng Ziji added, "Are you used to living there? If you don't want to live at your uncle's house, and you don't want to live on campus, you can live with me. I've been in China recently, and I'll pick you up on my way to and from get off work every day, and you can even cook and heat up some food for me." Huo Yuzhen sneered. Lin Xiaoqi asked him with her mouth, "What's the matter?" Huo Yuzhen pointed to the words in the book and answered her with his mouth, "Very interesting." Lin Xiaoqi nodded and said to Feng Ziji on the other end of the phone, "No, I'm used to living here." After listening for a while, Huo Yuzhen roughly understood the situation. She hadn't told Feng Ziji about her marriage yet, so she made up a lie and said she had moved out. At this moment, Antoine came to the door of the suite and knocked. "Master, are you free now?" Antoine looked at him anxiously. "What's up?" Huo Yuzhen said this, put down the book, and walked towards Antoine. He responded to Antoine's voice. Feng Ziji heard it and asked Lin Xiaoqi, "Whose voice is that?" "My friend." Feng Ziji was silent for 2 seconds. "Be careful when you are alone, and don't be so unguarded towards others." "Don't worry, I'm safe here." Feng Ziji sighed, all right, take good care of your injuries. I'll come to see you in a couple of days. Good. The two then ended the call. Wei Yuzhen also listened to what Aunt Wang said to him and nodded to her, go quickly, and remember to ask Uncle Ding to drive you. Hey hey. Aunt Wang agreed and left the suite. Wei Yuzhen returned to Lin Xiaoqi and glanced at the phone screen calmly, are you done? Xiaoqi nodded. Wei Yuzhen sat back in his chair and asked casually, are you not going to tell him about our marriage? Xiaoqi said, I don't want to hide it from Brother Ziji, but didn't you say that we should get married in secret first? You don't know how tired I am of lying. Wei Yuzhen smiled and said, since you don't want to lie, then call him again and tell him directly that we are married. Xiaoqi's face froze, now. Wei Yuzhen nodded, if you are embarrassed to say it, I can tell him. She quickly waved her hand and said that was not necessary and she could do it herself. Then she tapped the screen with her fingertips. However, before making the call, Xiaoqi still asked him whether the marriage would be completely public in the future or whether they would choose to keep it a secret. Wei Yuzhen thought for a moment and said, you can hide it from your teachers and classmates if you want, but forget about it from Feng Ziji. We are in the same circle, and you will inevitably appear with me in the future. He will find out sooner or later. Xiaoqi thought about it seriously and realized that it was right, so he said to Wei Yuzhen, then you can type it for me. I have been lying to him before, and I am a little embarrassed to speak. Wei Yuzhen could understand her feelings. It was normal to feel a little guilty after lying to a friend. So he picked up Xiaoqi's phone, and Xiaoqi dictated and he typed, telling Feng Ziji that they were already married. As for the reason why Xiaoqi and him got married so quickly, this girl was honest enough. She actually told Feng Ziji that the reason for her quick marriage was because she didn't want to marry the third young master of the Xie family. But she then added, although there is no emotional foundation, Brother Yu treats me very well, don't worry. As she said this, her face flushed slightly. Wei Yuzhen felt a little jealous. After all, the little girl had no feelings for him, only gratitude. But he remembered what he said to Lin Xiaoqi on the first day of his marriage, saying that the reason he married her was entirely to let his grandmother rest and recuperate, and they might even divorce in the future. It must be quite hurtful to say such things. Wei Yuzhen had no right to complain that the girl was not sincere towards him. After the information was edited, it was sent out directly. Feng Ziji replied almost immediately, I'm single too, why don't you come find me? Chapter 27 He is drunk. Wei Yuzhen looked at the message and narrowed his eyes. Xiaoqi asked, what did Brother Ziji reply? Wei Yuzhen glanced at the screen, he withdrew, and I didn't see it. Then he placed the phone in front of her. Feng Ziji did withdraw the message, almost within seconds. Then, Feng Ziji sent 3 words, got it. Lin Xiaoqi pursed her lips and asked Wei Yuzhen, do you think Brother Ziji is angry? Wei Yuzhen glanced at her calmly and said, why would he be angry if you got married? I don't know either. Maybe I lied to him. Then apologize sincerely next time we meet, he said, standing up, don't think about it, let's eat first. After saying that, Wei Yuzhen walked towards the first floor. Now Wei Yuzhen can be sure that Xiaoqi has no romantic feelings for Feng Ziji at all. But it's hard to say what Feng Ziji thinks of Xiaoqi. Lin Xiaoqi followed Wei Yuzhen downstairs and wanted to ask Aunt Wang to take care of her for dinner. Where's Aunt Wang? Wei Yuzhen served the rice and brought it to the table. Auntie Wang had an emergency at home and went back to her hometown. I will take care of you for the next few days. Lin Xiaoqi's mouth stiffened. So, the young master not only has to bathe her, but also feed her? Lin Xiaoqi felt so embarrassed, so she said, I'll try it with my left hand first. I brushed my teeth with my left hand this morning. So she held the spoon between 2 fingers, but she ate 2 spoonfuls with poor accuracy and spilled the soup all over the table. Wei Yuzhen didn't say anything. He just sat on the chair next to her, took her bowl, and handed the spoon to her mouth. Open your mouth. Lin Xiaoqi had no choice but to cooperate. In fact, after getting through the hurdle of taking a bath, Lin Xiaoqi has become relatively calm about feeding. She didn't feel embarrassed, she just felt that Wei Yuzhen was a little too good to her. She's so nice, could it be that I'm in love with her? As soon as this thought came to mind, Lin Xiaoqi chewed it up and swallowed it into his stomach. Wei Yuzhen probably felt that he had not protected her well last night, and he took care of her out of guilt. But after being fed spoonful after spoonful, when Lin Xiaoqi looked at Wei Yuzhen again, there was a subtle change in her psychology. I feel very lucky that I met a very good person after getting married so hastily. When they get divorced in the future, Lin Xiaoqi must shamelessly acknowledge Wei Yuzhen as her brother. Thinking of this, I felt closer to him, and when I looked at Wei Yuzhen again, my eyes were smiling. Wei Yuzhen glanced at her and couldn't help but be infected by her smile. He smiled and said, "Are you so happy to be served by others?" Lin Xiaoqi felt a little embarrassed by his teasing. "Yes, it's good." "Then I'll give you a bath tonight." Lin Xiaoqi's face froze and she almost choked. Wei Yuzhen quickly smoothed her back. Lin Xiaoqi said in a hoarse voice, "Brother Yu, don't tell such scary jokes while eating." For some reason, seeing her nervous and embarrassed look, Wei Yuzhen was in a good mood and even ate an extra bowl of rice than usual. Lin Xiaoqi was in a good mood, even though Wei Yuzhen had lied to her for so long that she felt like a fool. But he did have his own reasons, so this deception is not unforgivable. In order to save her, Wei Yuzhen even disrupted his own disguise plan. Thinking of this, Lin Xiaoqi was even more moved. "I just don't know if it will cause him trouble after making it public." She glanced at Wei Yuzhen worriedly, only to see that he looked calm, as if everything was still under his control. Lin Xiaoqi also slowly calmed down. She thought that Wei Yuzhen should know what he was doing, but she should be careful with her words and actions in the future and not drag him down. In the evening, Uncle Ding brought an express package to Lin Xiaoqi. A big pink box. As soon as she saw the packaging box, Lin Xiaoqi guessed that it was the flowers sent by that flower shop. Uncle Ding saw that her hands were inconvenient and wanted to help her open it, but Lin Xiaoqi declined Uncle Ding's kindness. These flowers were given to her by another man. If there was a greeting card along with it, Uncle Ding might misunderstand her and it would be difficult to explain. After Uncle Ding left, Lin Xiaoqi untied the ribbon and tried to open the lid of the box by herself, but after fiddling with it for a long time, she failed. She even pulled the wound on her hand and gave up. It was already past 10 o'clock in the evening. It was inconvenient for Lin Xiaoqi to wash up, so she simply wiped her face with a wet wipe, cleaned her mouth with mouthwash, and prepared to go to bed. Not long after I lay down, I heard footsteps coming from the corridor outside. It seems that Wei Yuzhen is back. As she was thinking about it, she heard him walk into her suite. Lin Xiaoqi turned on the bedside lamp and sat up. Wei Yuzhen had already entered her bedroom. He was wearing a suit, but his tie was loose, his face was slightly red, and his eyes were drunk. Then he came to her bed and sat directly on it. "Hand, is it feeling better?" As soon as he opened his mouth, Lin Xiaoqi smelled the alcohol and frowned. "Brother Yu, have you been drinking?" He smiled and reached out to rub Lin Xiaoqi's head. "It's okay, I didn't drink much." Lin Xiaoqi stroked the top of her head with her remaining claws. She felt that Brother Yu, who was drunk, looked at her with a strange look, which made her feel uneasy. Moreover, he sat directly on her bed and touched her head, unlike his usual restraint. "Then you should go to bed early, I want to sleep too." Lin Xiaoqi looked at him a little nervously, hoping that he would go back to his room obediently. But Wei Yuzhen's eyes fell on the small table by her window, and he saw the flower gift box that someone had given her. "Did he send you flowers again?" Lin Xiaoqi nodded. "What flower is it this time?" Lin Xiaoqi said that his hands were not very convenient and he hadn't taken it apart yet. "Then I'll help you open it and take a look," Wei Yuzhen said. Then he stood up, came to the table, and helped her open the lid of the box. "It's a sunflower." Then, he took out the folded greeting card from the box and turned to look at Lin Xiaoqi. "Do you want me to read it for you?" When Wei Yuzhen asked this question, his tone was nonchalant, as if he didn't care about anything. "I just kindly helped her read the message that came with the flowers." However, his overly deep gaze made Lin Xiaoqi shiver. It feels like their husband is scrutinizing his cheating wife. But she didn't cheat. Then she realized belatedly, yes, he can see, so he saw the last message. So, in order to prove that she was honest, she said calmly, "Okay, go ahead and read it." Chapter 28. Just hold me for a while. Wei Yuzhen looked at Lin Xiaoqi deeply, opened the card, and read the words on it. "If time could go back, I would like to go back to the day before the typhoon came." "What about you?" "The signature is still Mr. Z." Lin Xiaoqi looked confused. Last time he was going to wait for her at the finish line, but this time he was saying something like the day before the typhoon. He was saying such sour and inexplicable things. What on earth was he trying to do? "I feel like Mr. Z wants to pursue her." "But why don't you show up or identify yourself?" Could it be that he only likes secret crushes? Lin Xiaoqi couldn't figure it out. Hui Yuzhen understood the meaning of this sentence, and of course he also knew who this so-called Mr. Z was. He sneered softly and threw the greeting card back into the flower box. It's useless to go back to the day before the typhoon, because Xiaoqi and I had arranged our marriage much earlier. Just as he was thinking about this, Xiaoqi suddenly called him, rubbing his back against the bed, and said painfully, "Brother Yu, can you help me?" "What?" She turned her back and said, "My back is suddenly very itchy. Can you scratch it for me?" Hui Yuzhen was stunned for 2 seconds. At this moment, she was probably only wearing a thin long-sleeved pajamas. Did this girl trust him too much? But he still walked to the bed and sat behind her. As soon as I lifted the hem of her pajamas and was about to put my hand in, she immediately turned around and said, "Just through the pajamas." Hui Yuzhen smiled helplessly and did as she asked. After doing something so outrageous last night, she felt embarrassed to just scratch her back today. And if he wanted to do something to her, he would not have let her go in the bathroom, so why should he take advantage of her now? However, through the clothes, she seemed to be able to remain calm, commanding him up and down, left and right, without being awkward with him. Although Hui Yuzhen found this situation strange, he felt very warm in his heart. It also reminded Hui Yuzhen of his childhood. His mother was still alive at that time, and sometimes she would call him to scratch her back. After scratching her back, he would ask her to scratch him, regardless of whether he felt itchy or not, just to give her orders up and down. Sometimes his father would see him and join in, but he didn't listen to his mother's instructions like she did, and he would always tickle him. He was hiding and running away with a smile on his face, his father was chasing after him to scare him, and his mother was standing by and watching them and laughing. He must have been only 4 or 5 years old at that time, and his parents were still young too. He thought that kind of life would last forever. However, it seemed as if all those changes happened overnight, and those happy days were gone in the blink of an eye before I had time to appreciate them carefully. Listening to Xiaoqi instructing him to scratch his itch, all the warm moments of the past seemed to come back to him all of a sudden. Xiaoqi said, "Okay, brother Yu." Hui Yuzhen put his hand down but did not leave. Instead, he hugged Xiaoqi from behind and rested his chin on her shoulder. The moment he hugged her, Xiaoqi's body became noticeably stiff. "I'm a little tired, let me lean on you for a while." "Oh." Hui Yuzhen smiled. She was really cooperative, and maybe she was kind. Just like this, holding her quietly, the night was exceptionally peaceful and time seemed to stand still. But he could feel that Xiaoqi was always tense. He knew he should let go. But I don't know why, even though I know I should let go, I just don't want to. Even more greedily, he felt her body was soft, her hair was fragrant, her breath was warm. Suddenly he thought of the time when he helped her shower the night before. Thinking of her long neck and slender waist, Hui Yuzhen couldn't help but lower his head and kiss her neck gently. She shuddered and shrank her neck. Although she did not resist more violently, Hui Yuzhen still felt the resistance in her heart. Xiaoqi might not dislike him, but she was far from willing to let him touch her. Hui Yuzhen knew he had to go. This hug was already an overreach due to the alcohol. If he stayed any longer, he might do something even more extreme. More haste, less speed. It would just scare her away. However, as he thought this, his hands seemed to have a will of their own, and the more he wanted to leave, the tighter he hugged her. Finally, she uttered a weak voice, "Brother Yu, you are pressing my hand, it hurts a little." Hui Yuzhen quickly let go of her. "Why didn't you tell me earlier, which one did you crush?" "My left hand," she smiled, "but it's nothing serious." Hui Yuzhen picked up her wrist, looked at the condition of the gauze, and said that he would change the dressing tomorrow morning and leave it like that for tonight. Then thinking of the culprit Joanna and the fate of her subordinates, Hui Yuzhen frowned. "I originally wanted to tell Xiaoqi, but after thinking about it, I decided not to do it so as not to scare her. Then I thought about her washing. I was close to her just now and smelled the cool mint in her mouth, which seemed to be the smell of mouthwash." "Wash yourself, did you do it?" Her face froze, and she nodded repeatedly, saying it was done. She wiped her face with a wet wipe and rinsed her mouth. It was very simple. Hui Yuzhen certainly knew what she was afraid of, but the more afraid she was, the more Hui Yuzhen wanted to tease her, and said lightly, "Okay, then I won't help you take a bath today." As soon as these words came out, the girl's face turned red instantly. Hui Yuzhen stood up and picked up the box of flowers. Putting flowers in the bedroom will affect your sleep. I'll help you take them out. After saying that, Huo Yuzhen helped her turn off the bedside lamp. Before leaving the bedroom, he still said to Xiaoqi, I went out drinking with my friends tonight. I had been hiding my eye problem from them, so I punished myself with a few drinks. I might be a little drunk. She smiled unnaturally. I understand. I understand. Huo Yuzhen left Lin Xiaoqi's suite. She lay on the bed, thinking about what had just happened. Was Huo Yuzhen reporting to her? And what about that hug and that light kiss? Was he really drunk? If he wasn't drunk, could it be that Huo Yuzhen had fallen in love with her? Then she unconsciously recalled that Huo Yuzhen had gone to save her and exposed his own situation. Huo Yuzhen's treatment of her seemed to have gone beyond that of an ordinary friend. If Brother Yu really fell in love with her, could she give him the response he wanted? She can be a good wife, but can she be a sincere lover? Lin Xiaoqi didn't sleep well the whole night and had many messy dreams. When she woke up the next day, her eyes were wet and she felt like a huge rock was pressing on her heart. I came to the window, looked out for a while, encouraged myself, and gave a bright smile to my own reflection in the glass, as if I could be as carefree as usual again. It was also on this morning that an uninvited guest came to their house. Huo Yuzhen and Lin Xiaoqi were just about to have breakfast when the doorbell rang. Huo Yuzhen frowned and glanced at Uncle Ding, who then went to open the door. Afterwards, a pale-faced woman followed Uncle Ding to Huo Yuzhen and Lin Xiaoqi. Chapter 29 It's really natural. If you don't believe me, just touch it. This pale-faced woman was Joanna, who kidnapped Lin Xiaoqi and wanted to disfigure her. Lin Xiaoqi felt pain in her palms as soon as she saw this young lady. The palm of my hand that was cut by Joanna took more than a day to recover, but it still hurts when I move it a little. I can't wash my face, take a shower or eat. And I don't know if it will affect my painting in the future. Thinking of this, Lin Xiaoqi became extremely angry. However, this Miss Qiao didn't seem to be in much better condition either. She looked extremely haggard, her hair was messy, and she was unkempt, as if she had been discharged from the hospital before recovering from a serious illness. Then Lin Xiaoqi quickly noticed that Joanna was actually wearing a hospital gown under her coat. I didn't expect that hemophobia could be so serious that I would have to stay in the hospital for several days. But she was more curious about what Joanna was doing here. Looking at Huo Yuzhen, his expression was very calm, as if he had expected Joanna to come. Just when Lin Xiaoqi was confused, Joanna suddenly bowed to her and said, I'm sorry, I was impulsive that day and did something that hurt you. I apologize to you. Lin Xiaoqi was extremely surprised that such an arrogant person actually bowed to her and apologized. She looked at Huo Yuzhen, wondering if it was Huo Yuzhen who did it. After all, Huo Yuzhen said that he would avenge her. But Huo Yuzhen said nothing, just frowned and stared at Joanna coldly. Joanna said to Huo Yuzhen again, Thank you, Mr. Huo, for your kindness. I will never do anything to hurt Miss Lin again. I will also compensate Miss Lin for all the harm I caused her that day. I hope you'll keep your promise. Joanna smiled bitterly, I know, words are not enough. After saying that, she took out a small dagger from her pocket and cut her palm twice. Blood suddenly gushed out and dripped onto the floor in front of Lin Xiaoqi. Huo Yuzhen frowned even more tightly, and Lin Xiaoqi was also shocked by this sudden scene. Joanna looked at her own blood, staggered, and closed her eyes. Uncle Ding immediately came to Joanna and supported her. Joanna was afraid of blood. When she saw her own blood, her symptoms flared up and she was about to faint. Send her to the hospital. Huo Yuzhen said. Uncle Ding nodded and helped Joanna walk out. However, Joanna held on for a breath and said to Uncle Ding, Wait, I have something else to say. Uncle Ding stopped. Joanna turned and looked at Huo Yuzhen. You care so much about Lin Xiaoqi, you must like her very much, right? I like it very much. Huo Yuzhen said frankly. Lin Xiaoqi was slightly stunned and looked at Huo Yuzhen. She didn't know whether Huo Yuzhen was telling the truth or just answering Joanna's question perfunctorily. After hearing this, Joanna sneered, Then do you know that her face is actually all made up, and everything that can be moved has been moved? Lin Xiaoqi. Huo Yuzhen raised his eyebrows, Really? I didn't know that. She told me this herself. Huo Yuzhen looked at Lin Xiaoqi. Lin Xiaoqi didn't know how to defend herself for a moment, but Joanna was right, she said it herself. That day she saw that Joanna wanted to ruin her face, and she suddenly had an idea and started talking nonsense, saying that although my face looks good, it is actually plastic surgery. Unexpectedly, Joanna said, "Who made you look so good?" So the knife still came over. Lin Xiaoqi looked at Wei Yuzhen in embarrassment. "Yes, I said that, but..." Wei Yuzhen gently lifted her chin, interrupted her, and then looked at her face from left to right. "Then you did a pretty good job, just in line with my aesthetic taste." Lin Xiaoqi blinked her eyes. Is this considered a compliment? Joanna also heard what Wei Yuzhen said. She was so angry that she fainted. Of course Joanna was not dead, she was just in temporary shock. She was sent to the hospital and woke up soon after rescue. But Lin Xiaoqi's situation is more troublesome. As soon as Joanna left, she explained to Wei Yuzhen that she had made up a lie to delay time and to make Joanna feel more balanced, saying that her face had been plastic surgery. But her face has never been touched by a knife. And she doesn't have money for plastic surgery. Wei Yuzhen said, "You don't have to explain. I don't care about this." But the more he said this, the more anxious Lin Xiaoqi became. She waved her two injured paws and pointed at her face. "I'm really natural. Touch me." Afraid that Wei Yuzhen would not believe it, he added, "Generally, plastic surgery involves surgery on the nose, and the nose is very fragile, so you can't just pinch it. I can pinch anywhere on my face. If you don't believe me, try it." Wei Yuzhen really held her face and rubbed it hard, and finally scratched the tip of her nose, and said with a smile, "Of course I know you are real. Do you think everyone is as easy to fool as that Joanna?" After saying that, he walked into the kitchen and brought the prepared meal to the table. But Lin Xiaoqi was a little dazed by his rubbing. She was stunned for 2 seconds, then narrowed her eyes and looked at Wei Yuzhen. "You really can't judge a book by its cover. This guy looks honest, but it turns out he has evil intentions." He said that on purpose just to irritate Joanna. Fortunately, Joanna was rescued. If she had really been angry to death, Wei Yuzhen would definitely be half responsible. Speaking of Joanna, Lin Xiaoqi still felt that the scene just now was a bit shocking. That young lady really cut her own palm, which was quite cruel. But she always felt that Wei Yuzhen forced her to do this, so during the meal, she asked Wei Yuzhen, "You forced her to apologize to me and cut her palm, right?" Since Lin Xiaoqi still couldn't use chopsticks to eat by herself, young Master Huo had to serve her meals. While Wei Yuzhen was feeding her, he said, "Her story is a bit off-putting. Are you sure you want to listen to it while eating?" Lin Xiaoqi nodded, "I have a very good appetite, ordinary people can't upset my stomach." So Wei Yuzhen told her what had happened in the past 2 days. On the night that Joanna kidnapped Lin Xiaoqi, Wei Yuzhen wanted to teach Joanna a lesson, but she was unconscious, so Wei Yuzhen decided to wait until she woke up. At the same time, she also asked Di Jun to bring her subordinates. Although they were instructed by Joanna, they were also accomplices in harming Xiaoqi, and Wei Yuzhen did not intend to let them off easily. Lin Xiaoqi's heart was beating fast. "Did you kill them?" Wei Yuzhen fed her porridge and laughed. "That wasn't the case. He just broke both of his hands, knocked him unconscious and threw him into Joanna's ward." He paused and continued, "Joanna had just recovered from her hemophobia, and when she opened her eyes and saw her for men with broken and bloody hands, she fainted again out of fright. This time Joanna was so frightened that a pacemaker was needed to save her life." Lin Xiaoqi took a breath after hearing this. Although fractures can be cured, just imagine breaking the bones directly. Brother Yu has such a cruel side. Also, seeing that Joanna looked so bad this morning, I now understand what happened. Chapter 30 Acid. Lin Xiaoqi asked again whether it was Wei Yuzhen who forced Joanna to apologize, and whether the bloody punishment of cutting her palm was also his request. Wei Yuzhen didn't want to tell Xiaoqi too much about Joanna, but he could tell that there was obvious fear of him in Xiaoqi's tone. In order to prevent Xiaoqi from thinking that he was too cruel, he defended himself a little. He didn't need financial compensation from the other party. This matter couldn't be solved with money. He wanted Joanna to come and apologize in person, and to expose his bullying behavior on the internet, and sincerely ask Xiaoqi for forgiveness. But yesterday, Mr. Zhang called me personally. Mr. Zhang first wanted to inquire about Xiaoqi's situation, and secondly, act as a peacemaker to mediate the conflict between the two families. The Zhang and Xiao families have a close relationship. Mr. Zhang hopes that Wei Yuzhen will give the Qiao family some face for his sake. As for the money, they should pay the compensation, but Joanna should not apologize publicly. In popular terms, that would be tantamount to social death, so why not just let her come in person to apologize? Wei Yuzhen had to give Mr. Zhang some face, But when he thought about how Xiao Qi was almost disfigured and even blinded by Joanna, he didn't want to let Joanna go easily. At the end, Mr. Zhang sighed and said that it would be better to follow the old rules of the underworld: blood debt must be repaid with blood. Just as Joanna hurt Xiaoqi, she also suffered the same hurt. Wei Yuzhen agreed, which is why this scene happened today. However, Wei Yuzhen was quite surprised that Joanna could really do it. She was indeed a person who dared to act and take responsibility for her actions. Wei Yuzhen explained the whole story and asked Xiaoqi if she was satisfied with the result. If she still felt aggrieved, he had other means. Lin Xiaoqi quickly waved his hand and said, "No need, this is enough, the blood debt has been paid with blood, what else do you want?" Wei Yuzhen nodded and looked at the empty bowl of porridge. "Do you want to eat more?" "I'm not going to eat any more. I'm a little full," she said embarrassedly. Wei Yuzhen put down his bowl and chopsticks. It can be seen that she has a gentle temperament and can live in peace with others as long as others don't provoke her. Even if someone provokes her, she is not the type to be unreasonable. However, the business world is like a battlefield, and Wei Yuzhen has seen a lot of intrigue and revenge. In this battlefield without the smoke of gunpowder, if you leave a slight flaw for your opponents, they will find a way to drag you into the abyss. So when facing this simple and peaceful girl, I feel more and more comfortable in my heart. Perhaps it was for this reason that even Feng Ziji, who was vicious and arrogant, liked to be friends with her. But when he thought of other men's admiration and coveting of her, Wei Yuzhen felt a little jealous. Joanna's matter has finally come to an end. For Lin Xiaoqi, the most important thing is to heal the injury on his hand as soon as possible. The next morning, she was finally able to use chopsticks to eat breakfast by herself. Although it was a little slow, at least she didn't have to rely on young Master Huo to feed her mouthful by mouthful. The wound is healing, but I still can't get in water. Washing my face is easier, but taking a bath is more troublesome. Lin Xiaoqi thought of a solution. The gauze on her left hand had been removed, so she could use her left hand to hold a long-handled bath brush for assistance. The injury on her right hand was more serious, so she wrapped the hand in a plastic bag and then wrapped it with a layer of plastic wrap. In short, there are always more solutions than problems, and I can take care of myself in life. Nanny Aunt Wang also came back. There were many things she couldn't do herself, and it was inconvenient to ask Wei Yuzhen for help, so she asked Aunt Wang for help, such as fastening her underwear. But Grandma hasn't come back yet. But Grandma called Lin Xiaoqi the night after she was injured and explained to her why she didn't tell her the truth about Wei Yuzhen's eyes. She also hoped that Xiaoqi would not blame Grandma for being dishonest, as Wei Yuzhen was in too dangerous a situation. Lin Xiaoqi had no intention of blaming her grandmother at all. She quickly said that it was okay and that she understood. She also knew that Yu Ji could see it, so she was just happy. Grandma Huo was very relieved to hear this. Then she said that her sister was no longer receiving treatment and had been taken home from the hospital. She was in the final stage of her life. Grandma wanted to spend more time with her sister, so she couldn't come back for the time being. In the next few days, Wei Yuzhen was also very busy. Sometimes he went out early in the morning and came back very late, so the two of them only saw each other once a day. Lin Xiaoqi seemed to have returned to the time when they had just gotten married. They live their own lives and have no intersection with each other. But she knew that her relationship with Wei Yuzhen was no longer the same as before. After Wei Yuzhen helped her take a bath and personally took care of her meals, her relationship with Wei Yuzhen was no longer just that of a roommate without any feelings. Psychologically, she felt closer to Wei Yuzhen. And that time when he was drunk, he suddenly hugged her and kissed her neck. This behavior made Lin Xiaoqi uneasy for several days. Especially the kiss on her. When Lin Xiaoqi thinks back on it now, she still feels that piece of skin was hot. I don't understand what he was thinking at the time. I can only understand that people who are drunk may be easily impulsive and do some strange things. By Friday, the bandages on both Lin Xiaoqi's hands had been removed. 10 fingers finally saw the light of day again. Lin Xiaoqi was in a good mood and went out for a run early in the morning. My hands were still a little sore, so I reduced the mileage and jogged 3,000 meters to stretch my muscles and bones, then prepared to go home. Leaving the lake and walking along the path towards home, when passing by a house, I saw a truck parked on the path, unloading furniture. It looks like a new neighbor has moved in. At this moment, a man in a light green casual shirt walked out of the villa. He was tall, with his sleeves rolled up several times, and was directing the workers to move things into their house, telling them where to put each thing. Lin Xiaoqi looked at this man and was stunned for a moment. "It's you." The man also saw her and nodded at her with a smile. "Good morning." Chapter 31, Déjà Vu. Seeing the man smile, Lin Xiaoqi couldn't help but frown. At Uncle Zhang's banquet that day, it was this person who kept looking at her and gave her a meaningful smile, which made her very uncomfortable. The man smiled and glanced behind him, then said to her, "We just moved in today, and will be neighbors from now on. Please take care of me." Juya responded politely and courteously. The man looked her up and down again and asked, "Do you like jogging in the morning, too?" Lin Xiaoqi nodded. "Not bad." She didn't want to continue chatting with this person, so after saying these two sentences, she prepared to leave. The new neighbor seemed cheerful and talkative. He smiled and said, "I like it too. We can come together in the future." Lin Xiaoqi didn't say anything, and said to the neighbor, "You go ahead and do your work. I'll go back first." "Hey, wait a minute." Lin Xiaoqi stopped and looked back at the man. "I'm going to get something for you, don't go." "I'll be out soon," he said, running into the courtyard gate. Lin Xiaoqi frowned again, took 2 steps towards home, and finally stopped. She lowered her head, kicked the grass at her feet, and waited for the man with an uneasy feeling. At the same time, I was also thinking, where have I seen this person before? This feeling of déjà vu became stronger and stronger, but I just couldn't remember it. After a while, the man ran out of the yard with a small brown paper bag with a handle in his hand. "Here." He handed over the bag. Lin Xiaoqi didn't reach out to take it. "What is it?" He opened the bag and took out a small round bottle, like the one used to hold skin cream. "Your hand is injured. I happen to know a female doctor. I got this ointment from her. It can help wounds heal and is very effective in removing scars." As he said this, he unscrewed the bottle cap and showed it to Lin Xiaoqi. The ointment is milky white and exudes a light fragrance. He continued, "As for the female doctor I told you about, she had suffered a serious injury before, but she insisted on applying this ointment, and her skin was left with no scars at all. You can try it." Lin Xiaoqi still didn't raise her hand to take it. "Thank you, but I don't think I can use it." The man was in no hurry to take it back, and continued, "Do you think this is a 3-no product and you don't dare to use it? This is mixed by others, but I asked about the ingredients and it's very mild. My sister's skin is prone to allergies, and I asked her to try it for 2 days in advance. She was fine, you can use it with confidence." Lin Xiaoqi couldn't help laughing and thought, "You are such a good brother to use your sister as a skin test." Seeing her smile, the man was stunned for a moment, then he also smiled. "Hurry and take it." He capped the bottle, put it back into the paper bag and handed it to her. Seeing that this person was quite frank in his words and actions, and that he really cared about her, Lin Xiaoqi didn't want to offend him, so she said, "How much is this?" "I'll transfer it to you." He laughed and said, "Well, I didn't spend any money. The doctor is my friend and gave it to me for free. You don't have to give it to me. Just think of it as a greeting gift to a new neighbor." Then he handed the paper bag forward again. Lin Xiaoqi hesitated for a moment, then picked it up with his less injured left hand. "Thank you then. Don't be polite, we are all neighbors." As they were talking, a cool yellow Lamborghini braked suddenly and stopped beside them. The passenger window was rolled down, and a young man wearing a denim jacket and dyed blue hair sat in the driver's seat. He looked over at the two of them, looked at Lin Xiaoqi, then looked at the man sitting opposite Lin Xiaoqi, and said with a smile, "Oh, you've moved in, thanks." The blue-haired man stopped talking and laughed dryly. "Thank you, brother. It was thanks to you that you reminded me of the problem with the car that day. Otherwise, I would have been in big trouble. Be careful next time." "Understood. I'm leaving now. I'll warm up the house for you later." "No problem, you're always welcome." After the two men exchanged a few polite words, the Lamborghini drove away. Lin Xiaoqi was about to go home, so she said to the man, "You go ahead and do your work. I should be leaving too." The man smiled and waved at her. "Let's go for a morning run together when you have time." Lin Xiaoqi didn't respond, just glanced at him, and then walked towards her home. After Lin Xiaoqi walked away, the smile on Xiamingzhi's face gradually disappeared. He was almost called out by his friend just now, but luckily his friend saw his gesture and reacted quickly enough to change his words in time. But Xiaoqi will know who he is sooner or later. If Xiaoqi knew his true identity, Would he still be so polite to him? Can I still talk to him so naturally? Are you still willing to pay attention to him? Then he remembered the faint smile that she had inadvertently revealed just now. Her smile was so beautiful, clean and clear, just like the April sky. Xiemingzhi encouraged himself. No matter what, she accepted his ointment, which was a good start. After that, he just needs to get in touch with her slowly and let her know that he is not as unreliable as she thought, and maybe he still has a chance. Thinking about this, Xiemingzhi's mood brightened. He turned into the courtyard and continued to direct the movers. The black luxury car parked not far away also restarted the car and drove in the direction where Lin Xiaoqi was walking. Hui Yuzhen was busy all night the night before and just came back this morning. He was exhausted and driving when he saw Lin Xiaoqi from a distance. Seeing that she was wearing sportswear, with her hair tied in a ponytail and her cheeks slightly flushed, I knew that she had just finished running. Now that my injury has healed, I can't sit still. I'm full of energy. Hui Yuzhen wanted to speed up to catch up with her, but he saw that she stopped in front of Xiemingzhi's door. I don't know what they were talking about, but Uncle Ding was right, that boy was quite handsome, and when he stood with Xiao Qi, Hui Yuzhen even had the illusion that they were a better match. After all, the age difference between them is small, and they look more like peers. Later, Xiemingzhi returned to the villa, but Xiaoqi stood there without leaving. Hui Yuzhen didn't understand what was going on, so he slowly stopped the car on the side of the road. He saw that Lin Xiaoqi was standing outside Xiemingzhi's house with his head down, kicking the grass, as if waiting for someone. Hui Yuzhen really wanted to know what Lin Xiaoqi was doing and why she didn't go home. Was she waiting for that guy to come out again? Sure enough, after a while, the boy came out with something in his hand. It turned out that he went back to their house to get something. Xiaoqi didn't answer at first, but then she didn't know what the boy said, and Xiaoqi laughed. The boy looked at her and smiled. Then, he saw Xiaoqi took the bag. Chapter 32 Don't Believe in Anyone. Lin Xiaoqi took a shower as soon as she got home. Having exercised in the morning, she felt energetic and in a good mood. She even hummed a song while taking a shower. I was singing my favorite line, I don't need to be logical to love you, I just want to catch you with my intuition and instinct. When I think of you. With a bang. There was a sound of a door closing outside. The last line of the lyrics got stuck in his throat and his body trembled. It seemed like the sound came from Hui Yuzhen's room. When Lin Xiaoqi fell asleep last night, he had not returned home yet. He probably came back in the early morning again. Is he up again? He has only slept for a few hours. Lin Xiaoqi had just finished showering, so she quickly wrapped herself in a bath towel, came to the bathroom door, and called out, Brother Yu. The door of her suite was open, and if Hui Yuzhen was in the corridor, he should be able to hear it. He listened for 2 seconds, but when there was no sound, he shouted again. This time, the sound of the door of the next door suite opening was heard. With the footsteps getting closer and closer, Hui Yuzhen came in front of her. Lin Xiaoqi was wrapped in a bath towel and standing at the bathroom door. The door was slightly open and only her head was sticking out. Seeing Hui Yuzhen's tired and dusty face, he couldn't help but wonder, you just came back. He nodded, glanced at her hands, and frowned. Without waiting for Lin Xiaoqi's reaction, he went into the bathroom, took a dry towel to wipe her dripping hair, and then took her left hand away. Didn't I tell you not to touch water? If you do this, how long will the wound heal? Lin Xiaoqi smiled awkwardly and said that there was no problem with the left hand, as the right hand was also wrapped in plastic wrap and wearing plastic gloves, so it was fine. You can't always not take a shower. He looked at her deeply, and Lin Xiaoqi was afraid that he would say something like, I can help you clean up. But Hui Yuzhen said nothing. He took a dry, soft towel from the bathroom cabinet, picked up her left hand, and helped her wipe the water that splashed on the wound. The wound on her left hand was shallow, so she didn't take any protective measures and the wound did get wet. While Hui Yuzhen was nervous about her hands, Lin Xiaoqi's face began to heat up. I have something to tell you. Hui Yuzhen looked at her, I'll wait for you outside. Oh, okay. After Hui Yuzhen left, Lin Xiaoqi looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. At this moment, she was only wrapped in a bath towel, and she just stood in front of Hui Yuzhen, but she didn't feel anything was wrong. Did she trust him to this extent? However, this thought only came to my mind for a moment, and Lin Xiaoqi quickly put on her clothes. Hui Yuzhen hadn't slept all night, so he must be very sleepy. Just now, his eyes were red. Lin Xiaoqi didn't want him to wait outside for a long time. After putting on her clothes and casually wiping her hair, Lin Xiaoqi left the bathroom. Hui Yuzhen was sitting on the double sofa in the small living room outside, looking out the window, not knowing what he was thinking. When Lin Xiaoqi approached, he turned around and looked at her. "I'm going out of town this weekend and will be back next week." As he spoke, he took out a small round bottle from his coat pocket. When Lin Xiaoqi saw the bottle, she was slightly stunned and looked at Hui Yuzhen. "This is. I got this medicine from a friend. When I'm not around, remember to apply it once a day, morning and night. Don't apply it too thickly. It can help wounds heal and prevent scarring." Lin Xiaoqi's eyes fell on the small brown paper bag on the sofa. After she came back from outside, she casually placed the bottle of medicine given by her neighbor on the end of the sofa and went to take a shower. At this time, the small bag contained the same ointment as the one in Hui Yuzhen's hand. Originally, she had not intended to apply the bottle of medicine. It was a medicine given by a stranger and she didn't know where it came from. She also mixed it herself, so she didn't dare to apply it on the wound casually. Now it seems that the doctor is indeed famous. This ointment should be reliable. Then he looked at the paper bag again. At this time, the bag was open, and Hui Yuzhen could see what was inside with just a glance. Lin Xiaoqi stood up silently, grabbed a pillow and walked to Hui Yuzhen. When she sat down, she used the pillow to cover the paper bag. "Brother Yu, if you are free, please help me apply it. I have memorized the amount and will do it myself next time." As he spoke, Lin Xiaoqi opened his palms to Hui Yuzhen. Hui Yuzhen stared at her deeply, then rubbed her head and said, "Wait for me to go wash my hands." Coming to the bathroom and turning on the faucet, Hui Yuzhen raised the corners of his lips slightly. He saw what Xie Mingzhi gave her, and it was the same medicine he had. But judging from Lin Xiaoqi's reaction, she can still tell who are her own people. Hui Yuzhen washed his hands, returned to the living room, held her hand, and gently applied the ointment. When her wound was touched, she frowned and pulled her hand back, but did not cry out in pain. Hui Yuzhen blew it gently for her, then looked up at her and found that the little girl's face had turned red. So he picked up his other hand and, just like before, applied medicine and blew gently on her wound. Perhaps she was too embarrassed, so she cleared her throat and asked, "What day will you be back next week?" "Not sure yet, want me to come back soon?" "I'm just asking." She lowered her eyes and said in a low voice. Because she had just taken a shower, her skin was clearer and had a beautiful blush on it. Hui Yuzhen's eyes deepened. "I don't need to pretend now, but the danger is still there. When I'm away on a business trip, you have to be more vigilant and don't believe everything anyone says." "Got it." Chapter 33. I like her shy look. After Hui Yuzhen finished speaking, Lin Xiaoqi nodded solemnly. Her expression was like that of a young brother who had just joined some organization, serious and earnest. Seeing the little girl so nervous, Hui Yuzhen had to pretend to be relaxed and comfort her. "Don't be afraid, since I dare not pretend anymore, it means it's not that serious anymore." She nodded seriously, then emphasized, "I'm not scared." Hui Yuzhen touched her fingertips and asked with a smile, "Are you not afraid? Why are your hands so cold?" "Because it's cold." Hui Yuzhen smiled faintly and did not continue to expose her. She was indeed a courageous girl, but Hui Yuzhen knew that she might just have no choice. What else can she do if she is not brave? No one protects her, so she can only force herself to be more independent and stronger. It was as if she didn't want to marry Xie Mingzhi, and maybe didn't want to get married so early, but she had no way to control her own marriage, so she had to find herself a relatively better husband. No matter what, it was Xiaoqi who chose him. In this little girl's heart, he is a better choice. Thinking of this, Hui Yuzhen felt much more relieved. Xiaoqi's hands had been treated with medicine, but Hui Yuzhen did not let go immediately. Instead, he continued to hold her two little paws to let the wounds dry and give her a sense of security. Then try to tell her as simply as possible about the complex problems you are facing. He told Xiaoqi that some people thought his existence was a threat and still wanted to get rid of him. Hui Yuzhen survived the traffic accident 2 years ago by luck. Now that he has revealed his identity and is back in the public eye with his company, it will naturally attract the attention of his competitors. Therefore, during the days he was on a business trip, he hoped that Xiaoqi would take good care of herself, not go to remote or unfamiliar places, and be wary of unfamiliar people. Apart from school and home, if she must go somewhere, she must remember to report to Uncle Ding or Hui Yuzhen and let her family know where she is going. Huo Yuzhen instructed his young wife just as he would instruct his daughter. She was very obedient, listened carefully, and said to him, "I've got it. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I'll just stay at home and work on my manuscript." Huo Yuzhen wanted to rub her head again, but he had ointment on his hands, so he had to give up. "Your hands are inconvenient, can I help you blow dry your hair?" Mainly, I felt that she was a bit nervous, but every time I blew her hair, she seemed very relaxed. She smiled, but still said, "You haven't slept all night, and you have to go on a business trip tomorrow. Go and have a rest, and don't worry about me. It doesn't matter these few minutes." After saying that, Huo Yuzhen held her wrist and led her into the bathroom. Then he brought her a chair and asked her to sit on it. Huo Yuzhen stood behind her and helped her blow dry her hair slowly. Their wet hair gradually becomes soft and smooth under the touch of fingertips. She closed her eyes with a faint smile on her lips, and seemed to be enjoying it. Huo Yuzhen guessed that, at least at this moment, Xiaoqi had no regrets about marrying him. As for the future, when she realizes that being with him is a dangerous thing, whether she will still not regret it, I don't know. However, as soon as this negative thought came to his mind, he suppressed it. As for the future, they will talk about it later. Now he just needs to blow dry his long hair. When his hair was finally half dry, Huo Yuzhen inadvertently looked up at the mirror, only to find Xiaoqi staring at him. He looked like he wanted to say something but hesitated. "Anything to say?" "Brother Yu, what kind of business are you in? Can you tell me?" she asked carefully. Huo Yuzhen was stunned for a moment, and suddenly realized that he had not yet told Xiaoqi about his work in detail. Judging from her nervous look, she probably thought that he was engaged in some high-risk or highly confidential job, or that he was a gangster, which was why there were so many bloody nights and fighting. "My company covers a wide range of areas, but basically it deals with information and communication technology. It's a serious business, don't worry." She was indeed relieved and sighed. "I didn't expect that the legendary overbearing president is right next to me." Huo Yuzhen smiled and wanted to say that he was not the president, but his assistant Ling was the nominal president. He did this to conceal his identity. But seeing Xiaoqi's surprised expression, he finally didn't make such unnecessary explanations. If she likes the cliché plot of a domineering president falling in love with me, he is willing to satisfy her girlish heart. While Huo Yuzhen was catching up on his sleep during the day, Lin Xiaoqi was working on his drawings in the room. In the evening, the two came out of their respective rooms and had dinner together. Xiaoqi said that the ointment was very effective and that the pain was relieved after just one application. Huo Yuzhen said, "Then I'll help you apply it again after dinner." She hummed but didn't look at him. She kept her head down and ate, as if she was shy or angry with someone. The cheerful girl before seemed to have something on her mind suddenly, and she didn't even look at him. Huo Yuzhen couldn't quite guess what the little girl was thinking, but he actually enjoyed seeing her embarrassed look. Then it suddenly occurred to me, had she ever been so shy in front of her deceased ex-boyfriend? This thought cast a layer of sour melancholy over Huo Yuzhen's good mood. After dinner, Huo Yuzhen applied medicine to Xiaoqi. He wanted to continue holding her hand and let the ointment dry. But she pulled her hand back and said that she could do it herself, it was just held up anyway. Huo Yuzhen sighed secretly, feeling a little anxious. And so it went on until evening. Since he had made up for his sleep during the day, Huo Yuzhen was not too sleepy. After packing his luggage for the business trip, he began to look at the materials he would need for the meeting the next day. "I watched until 2 in the morning and went to bed only when I felt sleepy. Just as I fell asleep, I vaguely heard a scream coming from the suite next door. It wasn't loud, but it was a girl's voice." He sat up suddenly and decided to go over and check. As soon as he walked out of the bedroom, he saw Lin Xiaoqi barefoot, holding a pillow, walking towards him quickly. "What's wrong?" Huo Yuzhen asked, and came to her and held her shoulders. In the dim night light, he saw that Lin Xiaoqi's face was very pale, as if she was frightened. "Having a nightmare?" She shook her head. "There was a dark shadow floating past my window." Chapter 34. Why not sleep here with him? Huo Yuzhen frowned immediately. "What kind of black shadow is it? Did you see it clearly?" Xiaoqi said it looked like a drone because there was a little red dot lit up. Huo Yuzhen breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing Xiaoqi's reaction just now, he thought someone had broken into their house and committed a crime. Being spied on is not a small problem, but it is not a threat at the moment. I wanted her to describe the situation in more detail, but she was wearing a suspender nightgown and her bare feet on the floor seemed very cold. I held her hand, and it was also cold. Hui Yuzhen took her to the inner room first, asked Xiaoqi to sit on his bed, and then wrapped a quilt around her. Xiaoqi must have been scared, because she didn't refuse when he led her to the bed. However, when she got into bed, she rubbed the soles of her feet on the mattress beside the bed, probably because she was afraid of dirtying his bedding. From this perspective, she seems to be quite calm and even cares about hygiene issues. The little girl is very sensible and doesn't like to cause trouble to others, which is a good thing. But she was always so reserved and polite in front of him, which made Hui Yuzhen feel a little jealous. He even hoped that Lin Xiaoqi would get into his quilt without a care in the world and dirty his sheets, and then he would call her a little scoundrel and grab her to change the bedding. That's what a normal relationship is. Of course, it may also be because he and Lin Xiaoqi were not in a relationship at all. Until now, they were just a contractual couple who got along harmoniously, but he was the only one who fell in love with her. After wrapping the girl in a quilt, Hui Yuzhen asked her to tell him what happened, how she discovered it, and whether she knew how long the drone had been filming. Xiaoqi said that she got up to go to the bathroom just now, and when she came back, she found that the curtains were not closed. When she was about to close the curtains, she saw that thing parked outside her window. The thing might have known that it was discovered, so it flew away. The light was dim and she couldn't see clearly at the time, but from the outline it looked like a drone. Then Xiaoqi asked again if this person was sent by his opponent. Hui Yuzhen hesitated for a moment, still unsure whether the drone was arranged by the opponent. It is possible that someone nearby is not following the drone flight rules and is spying on other people's lives. This was also an oversight on his part. According to his previous habits, he would add a countermeasure system in the house to deal with drone photography. This house was renovated by someone hired by Grandma. After Hui Yuzhen and Xiaoqi moved in, they forgot about the countermeasure device. After briefly explaining the situation to Xiaoqi, Hui Yuzhen used the internal landline to dial the number of Uncle Ding's room and asked Uncle Ding to come over. As soon as he hung up the phone, Lin Xiaoqi prepared to get out of bed and go back, saying that she was sorry to disturb him, and now that she knew what was going on, it was time for her to go back. She was so polite to him, and as soon as they had a chance to come into contact, she wanted to escape. Hui Yuzhen was upset and pressed her shoulders directly. Let's go later. Xiaoqi was stunned for a moment, then sat down again. After a while, Uncle Ding came. Hui Yuzhen was outside the bedroom and told Uncle Ding what had just happened. He asked Uncle Ding to check if there were any drones around the villa, and then find out who controlled the drone as soon as possible, and at the same time add a system to counter drones in the house. Uncle Ding agreed to everything. Before leaving, he took a look inside and asked in a low voice, "Is Xiaoqi in your room?" Hui Yuzhen nodded. Uncle Ding patted him on the shoulder and looked at him meaningfully. "Master, let me say one more thing. This opportunity is rare, you must seize it." What to do with the opportunity? Naturally, the rice is cooked. Hui Yuzhen was afraid that Xiaoqi might have heard it, so he nodded to Uncle Ding, waved his hand, and told Uncle Ding to get back to work. After Uncle Ding left, Hui Yuzhen returned to the suite, sat on the bed, and briefly told Xiaoqi what he had just explained to Uncle Ding, letting her know that the situation was not that serious and was still under control. Lin Xiaoqi's emotions have calmed down. She said she is no longer afraid and wants to go back to sleep now. Hui Yuzhen held her wrist and boldly tried to persuade her to stay. "Why don't you sleep here with me? You don't have to be scared and unable to sleep over there, and then come to me with a pillow in your arms." She smiled and said, "I'm not scared anymore. It was the middle of the night just now, and I was startled when I suddenly saw something outside the window." Hui Yuzhen could understand, but he glanced at the pillow in her arms and said, "Aren't you planning to sleep with me? Why are you holding the pillow?" She was stunned for a moment and explained, "I just grabbed something subconsciously, that's not what I meant." Seeing that she was determined to leave, Hui Yuzhen couldn't tie her to the bed by force, so he stepped aside from the bed and said lightly, "Okay, then you can go back." Maybe it was because his tone was a little cold, Xiaoqi didn't move after hearing his words. Hui Yuzhen glanced at her and said, "Why don't you leave?" She lowered her head and was silent for a few seconds, then said, "If you are not afraid of me disturbing your rest, then I will stay." Hui Yuzhen smiled slightly, but he tried his best to control his expression and said, "How else can you disturb me?" As he said that, he moved his pillow to the side and put Lin Xiaoqi's pillow in place. Xiaoqi combed her hair to one side and lay down. Then Hui Yuzhen turned off the bedside lamp and went to bed. She must have been very embarrassed, so she kept her back to him. In the dim light, Wei Yuzhen looked at the girl's graceful body curves and felt that the dreams he had been having for days had come true. He was also trying to guess the girl's intentions. Perhaps coming to him on her own initiative was a step forward for her, and being willing to lie beside him was a kind of tacit consent from the girl. Wei Yuzhen put his hand under her neck, let her rest her head on his arm, and then put his other hand on her waist. While he was doing these two actions, her body was noticeably stiff, and she didn't know if it was because she was too nervous. Then she turned around and said, "Brother Yu." The word brother sounded both surprising and a little bit of a request, as if the writer didn't want him to continue. But since he was already holding her in his arms, she didn't resist violently. Wei Yuzhen thought this was a very clear signal. And he really didn't want to let go. So he ignored the resistance in her tone. He put his arms around her and held her in his arms. Xiaoqi didn't call his name again, just lay there against his chest. But her body was very stiff and nervous. Wei Yuzhen pressed against her back and seemed to be able to feel her pounding heartbeat. He put his hand close to Xiaoqi's neck and asked her in a low voice, "Are you so scared of me?" Chapter 35. The young master doesn't want to be a good person anymore. Lin Xiaoqi was silent for a moment, and responded softly, "We are married, how could I be afraid of you?" It sounded slightly awkward, as if she was trying to find evidence that she wasn't afraid of him. "Maybe I shouldn't say too much at this time." Wei Yuzhen calmed down and kissed the back of her neck gently. The girl shrank her body, as if she wanted to get out of his arms, but she held back and did not move. This is not a normal reaction based on mutual consent, it's more like accepting something as it comes. Wei Yuzhen stared at her back, his brows tightening. "You're not afraid of me, but you don't like me either, right?" The girl in his arms was silent for another 2 seconds before she replied, "No, I like you very much." Wei Yuzhen listened to her gentle and soft tone, but he suddenly felt angry for no apparent reason. He half raised himself, turned her shoulders around, and looked straight into her eyes. "What kind of love is it? Is it the same love you have for Grandma, Aunt Wang, and Uncle Ding? Otherwise, how could I say it so calmly and naturally? This should obviously be an extremely ambiguous love talk." Xiaoqi pursed her lips, and a layer of mist covered her eyes. Wei Yuzhen knew that he was a little fierce and even scary now, but he had to speak out these confusions. Because as their contact increased, his feelings towards this girl were no longer the same as they were at the beginning. Instead, he was attracted to her at a speed he had not expected. The feedback he received was not equal. Is he really too anxious? Or maybe Lin Xiaoqi just didn't want to keep the same emotional pace with him at all. "Why don't you answer me? How do you like me? Brother Yu. Call me by my name." She pursed her lips and said, "Yuzhen, do you miss it very much? Are you willing to cooperate whenever I want?" She lowered her eyes. "When I married you, no one forced me, I was willing, so I will fulfill all the obligations in marriage. If you want, I can." However, her submissive attitude made Wei Yuzhen even more annoyed and angry. This little girl is too considerate and gentle, so gentle that it seems as if she has no heart. Because of her gentleness, she is almost insensitive. It seemed like you could do anything to her and she would never refuse or get angry. Sometimes, he could even feel that Xiaoqi was catering to his wishes. For example, when he was bothered by Feng Ziji, she would turn on the speakerphone and let him listen to their phone call. When he minded the flowers that Mr. Z sent again, she would take the initiative to let him scratch her back as a sign of affection. And when Wei Yuzhen hugged her and even couldn't help kissing her neck, she was clearly resisting but didn't push him away. She even said that she understood he was drunk and it didn't matter. And this morning, when he took out the ointment, she felt guilty. She was afraid that he had discovered that Xie Mingzhi also gave her a similar ointment. So she sat in front of him, used a pillow to cover the paper bag, and spread out her hands, asking him to help apply the medicine. And that day he helped her undress and bathed her. Even though she knew he couldn't see, she was still embarrassed, but she didn't refuse. Because she knew that they were husband and wife, and there were some things she couldn't refuse. So now that she was in his arms and was about to lose her virginity, she didn't push him away. It's not because she likes him, but because she wants to play the role of a good wife. This girl didn't even have any interest in his affairs. Today, she suddenly asked him what his occupation was. Before this, she had always maintained a roommate relationship that did not cross the line, did not ask questions, and respected each other. Thinking of his roommate, Wei Yuzhen sighed secretly. This can be considered as getting what you want. This was exactly the expectation he had when he married Lin Xiaoqi. Now, he was moved unilaterally, but found that the girl had already locked her heart and was not moved at all. I really want to bully her, to see how much patience she has, to see what she looks like when she gets angry and calls him a hooligan. But he was also afraid that by then she would no longer even have that gratitude and would only be perfunctory in her affection for him. Wei Yuzhen let go of her shoulders and said, "Okay, it's getting late, and I'm tired too. Let's go to bed early." After saying this, he turned his back with great willpower. The girl behind him lay quietly for a while, then turned around and hugged his waist. "Brother Yu, I can try." Wei Yuzhen took a deep breath and said, "When you really want to give it to me, I won't be polite. Good night then." From beginning to end, this one word, good night, was all she really wanted. Then Wei Yuzhen felt the little hand on his waist. She was still hugging him. Although this girl didn't know how to love him, she knew very well how to drive him crazy. "If you hold me again, I will really do it, whether you like it or not." Wei Yuzhen actually hoped that she would cater to him this time. As soon as he finished speaking, she immediately retracted her hand and whispered behind his back, "Actually, I still like the way we got along before. I don't like it. Don't think about it. I can't go back." Wei Yuzhen said unhappily. He likes girls who respond to his feelings. Instead of hugging her without resistance, kissing her without reaction, and even going to bed with her, she can accept it with just her eyes closed. Then she told him he was a good man every day and was extremely grateful to him, wishing she could recognize him as her brother. Wei Yuzhen no longer wants to be a good person. He wants to bully the little girl now. After a while, she didn't say anything. Wei Yuzhen thought his tone was too bad, so he turned around and looked at her. "Why, do you regret marrying me?" She opened her eyes wide and looked at him in the dark. No, I don't regret it. I just feel a little sorry for you." Wei Yuzhen was so angry that he wanted to laugh when he heard her tone. "I don't regret marrying him, but I'm sorry that I really don't like him. That's probably what it means. This girl has the potential to be a scumbag." She nervously pulled his hand and said, "Brother Yu, don't be angry. We haven't known each other for long. I don't have the kind of love you want yet. Give me some more time, and maybe I will fall in love with you." Wei Yuzhen closed his eyes, sighed, and turned his back again. So she was never dull, she knew what it felt like to like someone. Wei Yuzhen hesitated for a moment and said, "Can't you forget him?" Chapter 36. She is not that obedient, and he is not a gentleman either. The girl behind him did not give any response. This silence made Wei Yuzhen more certain of his guess. Yes, she did say that if that person were still alive, they would get married. What a pity this is. How could I forget it so easily? But when she thought that there was someone in her heart who wanted to possess her, her desire became even stronger. Wei Yuzhen turned around and looked at the curve of her back and her long hair spread out on the pillow. He wanted to bury his hands in her hair, to hold this graceful body tightly in his arms and possess her completely. Let her understand that the dead cannot come back to life, and he is her current husband. Wei Yuzhen put his hand on her shoulder and was about to pull her shoulder over, but he heard her even and long breathing. His movement stopped and he was stunned for 2 seconds. So, her silence just now was not a consent, but she just fell asleep. Suddenly I felt that my psychological struggle was unnecessary. In fact, she was only 20 years old, and no matter how deep her feelings for that guy were, they had only been together for a few years. She still has a long life ahead of her, so there is no need for her to panic. The imbalance in his heart finally calmed down. Wei Yuzhen slowly put his hand on her waist and gently held her in his arms. When the man behind her took a deep breath, Lin Xiaoqi slowly opened her eyes. A tear flowed from the corner of my eye and quietly fell on the pillow. The next morning, when the alarm rang at 6 o'clock, Wei Yuzhen immediately turned off the sound and quietly got out of bed. He didn't want to wake up the girl sleeping in his bed, so when he came back from washing up, he saw her sitting up with a sleepy look on her face. Xiaoqi rubbed his eyes and asked, "Are you leaving?" "Well, go back to sleep, it's still early." After saying that, Wei Yuzhen went into the cloakroom. After a while, Xiaoqi also followed in, stood at the door, and looked at him. Wei Yuzhen glanced at her calmly and said nothing, but she blushed and felt hot inside. She pursed her lips, shifted her gaze away, and observed his dressing room. "Why are all your clothes the same?" she said, looking at the row of suits. It was a rare occasion that his young wife began to care about his clothing. Wei Yuzhen slowed down his dressing speed, slowly buttoning his shirt while answering her questions. Matching clothes will take time, so it will be faster to choose if you have a few fixed sets. She nodded and said with a smile, men and women are really different. I just like more clothes. When Wei Yuzhen saw her smile, it was as if the cheerful and simple girl from before had returned. And after what happened last night that was so embarrassing, she took the initiative to come over and talk to him, probably trying to like him. When I come back, I'll take you clothes shopping. She shook her head as if to refuse, but hesitated for a second and nodded, okay. Wei Yuzhen frowned and came to her, you don't have to say insincere words to please me. She stared at him for 2 seconds and said frankly, I don't like the life of relying on my hands. As for buying clothes, I can do it myself. Wei Yuzhen was stunned for a moment, but immediately understood her feelings. Her mean and greedy aunt must have given her a lot of hard times when it came to her spending money, which is why she no longer wants to ask others for money. Although Huo Zixia really wanted to spend money on her, he also knew that this matter could not be rushed. Then spend your own money and I'll help you carry your bag. She was slightly stunned, obviously not expecting him to say that. Regardless of what she thought, Wei Yuzhen took the girl's wrist and led her to the tie storage cabinet. His clothes are all similar, but his ties come in many different colors and patterns, so he needs to choose. Wei Yuzhen gently held her waist from behind, help me choose one. She shrank her neck. You don't like me hugging you. You make my neck itchy. Wei Yuzhen smiled and asked, is it true? If I hated you hugging me, I would have sneaked back to my room last night, she said helplessly. Wei Yuzhen kissed her earlobe directly. The tips of her ears instantly turned red, her eyes flickered twice, and she turned back to look at him, but can you please stop kissing me so easily? Wei Yuzhen smiled, which was good. He dared to express his emotions. However, every word he said was a rejection of him. But it doesn't matter, he doesn't plan to be a gentleman anyway. Even if he continued to be a gentleman, he would never be able to catch up with this girl who was warm on the outside but cold on the inside even if he pursued her for his entire life. So he kissed the already red earlobe again and whispered, no. She also looked helpless, but she didn't say anything else. She glanced at the suits in the closet and said, if you want to choose a tie, tell me first, which one do you want to wear? Wei Yuzhen looked at a suit and said, that one. It was a dark blue suit. She rolled her eyes and pointed to an orange tie, then wear this one. Wei Yuzhen glanced at the little girl. Not that good. Everyone knows how to take revenge on him. He usually likes to match his dark blue suit with a tie of the same color, which makes him look more comfortable. Orange-yellow ties are not easy to match with clothes and are also picky about who wears them. But since his young wife was deliberately trying to embarrass him, Wei Yuzhen didn't care. He directly picked up the tie, put it around his neck, and asked Lin Xiaoqi, help me tie it. She said embarrassedly that she didn't know how to tie a tie, then raised her hands to show him, and her claws were not healed yet. They are just excuses. Wei Yuzhen smiled faintly, then watch how I do it. When I come back, I want you to tie my tie for me. She was slightly stunned, obviously not expecting him to be so rude. But perhaps she remembered that she had promised Huo Zixia that she would try to like him and get along with him like a real wife, so she nodded, then go slower. If I go any slower, I'll miss the plane. After saying that, Wei Yuzhen tied his tie at a normal speed. She frowned and stared intently. Her serious expression was very interesting. After tying the tie, Wei Yuzhen asked her, have you figured it out? She shook her head in frustration, I'd better learn from the videos on the internet. Wei Yuzhen smiled, picked a watch from the watch cabinet, put it on, then chose a handkerchief of the same color as his tie and put it in the upper pocket of his suit, leaving only a little orange edge exposed. After she put on the clothes, I could see a hint of resentment on the little girl's face. She must have chosen his tie with a motive, in retaliation for his frivolous behavior of kissing her at every turn. So I chose a tie that would flip over. But it just happened to clash with the color of the suit, and matched with a handkerchief of the same color. It added some fashion sense to the originally ordinary dark blue suit. Wei Yuzhen patted Xiao Qi's shoulder in appreciation, as expected of an art student, you are really good at matching colors. I will let you choose for me in the future. Xiao Qi looked at him silently, with even more resentment on his face. Wei Yuzhen stopped teasing her, packed up, picked up his luggage, and prepared to go downstairs. Before leaving the bedroom, Wei Yuzhen couldn't help himself, hooked his arms around Xiaoqi's neck and kissed her lips. But her face was tilted, so the kiss finally landed on one of her cheeks. Huo Yuzhen didn't care, and didn't continue to force her. He said, "Remember what I told you yesterday, call me if you have any problems." She nodded. "I have to finish my drawings. I won't run around." Huo Yuzhen thought for a moment and said, "Don't wander around in the community. It is also not okay to wander over to your ex-fiancé's house." However, he didn't say it explicitly, but I believe Lin Xiaoqi understood what he meant. She smiled and said, "I'll just run by the lake, that's okay, right?" Huo Yuzhen wanted to say no, but that would be restricting her personal freedom, so he had to nod, thinking silently in his heart, as long as you don't run away with your ex-fiancé, anything is fine. At this time, the driver called and reminded Huo Yuzhen that he had to leave, otherwise he would miss the plane. He stopped flirting with his young wife and quickly went downstairs. Lin Xiaoqi stood in front of the big window upstairs and watched the handsome man get into the car. Then he touched the earlobe that was still hot. She was going to take back her previous high praise for young Master Huo. She felt that this guy was never a gentleman, but just a wolf hiding deeply. Chapter 37 about her video. Lin Xiaoqi returned to bed depressed, turned over, looked at the empty half of the bed, and thought of what Huo Yuzhen said last night. The relationship between the two of them will never be able to return to the state it was before. I used to think that she and Huo Yuzhen would most likely divorce after 2 years. Now it seems that the high probability has become a low probability. Then I thought about the promise I made to him that I would try to like him, the kind of like a woman has for a man. But, can I really do it? Lin Xiaoqi was melancholy for a while, but couldn't figure out the reason, so she simply changed into sportswear and went downstairs to exercise. The injury on his hand was getting better day by day, and Lin Xiaoqi could resume his exercise. I ran 5 kilometers around the lake and went home feeling very satisfied. On their way back, I passed by courtyard number 17, which was the home of the newly moved neighbor. The door just opened and a man came out, also dressed in sportswear. The man saw her, was slightly stunned, and then said regretfully, "You've already finished running." Lin Xiaoqi nodded. In fact, she came out early today. As usual, she went out at this time. After nodding to each other, Lin Xiaoqi continued to walk home, but the man ran to catch up with her, then jogged backwards in front of her. "Did you apply the medicine I gave you? Is it effective?" Lin Xiaoqi thought of the 2 bottles of identical ointment and thought, "I did apply it, but it was not the one you gave me." But there was no need to explain so much, so I just nodded and said, "It worked, thank you." He smiled heartily, "You're welcome, I'm glad I can help you." As he spoke, he ran backwards, not even looking at the stone pia blocking the road behind him. Seeing that he was about to fall backwards onto the stone pia, Lin Xiaoqi reached out and grabbed his sleeve, "Be careful." The man dodged the stone pillar and stood in front of Lin Xiaoqi, scratching his head awkwardly, "Thank you, I didn't notice." Lin Xiaoqi loosened his sleeve. "Okay, go run. I have to go home too." "Okay, see you tomorrow." He waved with a smile. Lin Xiaoqi didn't answer him and walked towards home. The man also seemed to turn around and run towards the lake. Thinking of the way the man looked at her, Lin Xiaoqi was sure that the guy knew her before. She also felt that she had seen this man's face a long time ago. So before entering the house, I couldn't help but turn around and look at that guy. But she found that the man was still standing there looking at her. He smiled and waved his hand, meaning for her to go first. Lin Xiaoqi sighed in annoyance and ran quickly into the house. After Xiao Qi's figure disappeared, Xie Mingzhi turned around and walked towards his home. In order to run with Xiaoqi, he set 10 alarms this morning to wake himself up. He is almost dying of sleep now. If Xiaoqi doesn't go for a morning jog by the lake, he will never go there. He just wants to go back and catch up on his sleep. When I got home and lay on the bed, I started thinking about what had just happened. Lin Xiaoqi must have been annoyed with him, but even so, when she saw he was about to trip, she still pulled him up. I was too kind, I didn't think he might have done it on purpose. Then he thought of the look Xiaoqi gave him when she was about to enter the door. Xie Mingzhi's heartbeat quickened. Why did she look back with an inquiring look? Was she also interested in him? Thinking of this, Xie Mingzhi curled the corners of his lips and felt that he still had hope. But when he thought about the fact that Xiao Qi had married Huo Yuzhen and was taken advantage of by that guy, Xie Mingzhi still felt a little depressed. It is said that women care a lot about their first man, so Huo Yuzhen should be her first. She is a relatively obedient girl and her thoughts may be relatively conservative. This is also what Xiemingzhi is most worried about. He was afraid that after Lin Xiaoqi and Wei Yuzhen had a relationship, she would not be able to accept him. Thinking about these things, Xiemingzhi felt irritable and not very sleepy anymore. Just as I was trying to fall asleep, I heard someone ringing the doorbell. Xiemingzhi sat up suddenly, without even looking at the building intercom. He put on his home pants, casually put on a t-shirt, and walked to the first floor. No one he knew could get up so early. Just now, Lin Xiaoqi looked back at him, and Xiemingzhi felt that Xiaoqi had something to say to him, so the person who rang the doorbell could only be Lin Xiaoqi. However, when he hurried to the door of the house, opened it with hope, and looked at the blue-haired girl outside, his face suddenly fell. Why are you here in my house so early in the morning? The blue-haired man was the one who almost called out his name that day, and he was also Xiemingzhi's good brother, Kui Yiming. Kui Yiming shook the tablet in his hand. Of course I'm here to give you good news. Xiemingzhi said disdainfully, what good news? Every time you come to me, you always bring trouble with you. Tell me, what trouble have you gotten yourself into this time? Xiemingzhi said this and stepped aside from the door to let Kui Yiming in. Kui Yiming chuckled and said, you'll know in a moment. Let's go inside and talk. The two came to the living room and sat on the sofa. Xiemingzhi called the aunt at home and asked her to prepare 2 breakfasts. Kui Yiming laughed and said, how do you know I didn't have breakfast? Xiemingzhi glanced at him, what's going on? Kui Yiming opened the pad, swiped twice, clicked on an application, and then clicked on the video stored in the application. Xiemingzhi looked at the contents of the video and frowned, you secretly filmed Lin Xiaoqi. No, don't get me wrong. I know you like her, so I went to find out the situation for you. Kui Yiming explained that he noticed Lin Xiaoqi and Wei Yuzhen after they moved into the neighborhood and felt that they did not look like a newlywed couple at all because they were never seen entering or leaving the house together. Moreover, the two had a flash marriage, so Kui Yiming guessed that it might be a formal marriage, which is very popular nowadays. Last night he had a sudden idea, so he flew the drone over to take a look, and sure enough, he discovered that Lin Xiaoqi and Wei Yuzhen were not sleeping in the same room, but were sleeping in separate rooms. After listening to this, Xiemingzhi turned his attention back to the video. The drone took the photo from outside the window. Xiaoqi did not draw the curtains. She got up to go to the bathroom. There was no one else on the bed, and there was only one pillow. Maybe they had a fight and are temporarily separated. Kui Yiming laughed, you're quarreling right after you got married? And if you look closely at the layout of Lin Xiaoqi's room, it's clearly a little girl's room. If you still don't believe me, I'll check it out for you tonight. Xiemingzhi quickly stopped him, you shouldn't do this kind of despicable thing even once. Do you want to do it again? Delete the video immediately. Kui Yiming obediently deleted the video. Probably realizing that Xiemingzhi was really angry, he promised not to do it again. Only then did Xiemingzhi's expression ease a little. However, the news brought by Kui Yiming did make Xiemingzhi more determined. Since Xiaoqi and Wei Yuzhen are a fake couple, he can pursue her even more. Chapter 38, Missed Me. On the first day of Wei Yuzhen's business trip, Lin Xiaoqi spent the whole day at home working on the draft. Because the wound on my hand had not healed yet, I painted very slowly and only finished one painting before going to bed. In the past, she could draw at least 3 of these small-scale, not too complicated illustrations a day, and could complete the task in 2 or 3 days. But she had delayed the task of the past 2 or 3 days for 3 weeks, and now she is in such a mess. While applying medicine to her wound, Lin Xiaoqi reflected on her mistakes and vowed never to procrastinate again. After applying the medicine, she blew gently on the wound. The cool ointment gave off a gentle fragrance. Lin Xiaoqi remembered how Wei Yuzhen carefully applied the medicine to her. He also blew gently on her wound that day. Thinking about how Wei Yuzhen took care of her, she remembered her promise to try to like him. Lin Xiaoqi felt that she should take the initiative to do something. After checking his phone, it was not even 10 o'clock yet, so he sent Wei Yuzhen a message, Brother Yu, are you asleep? After a while, Wei Yuzhen replied, not yet. It feels like the topic has ended before it even started. Then what to say? If she didn't regard him as her boyfriend, Lin Xiaoqi could still speak normally, but once she really started to think about it in this way, she suddenly stopped. Lin Xiaoqi stared at her phone with deep hatred. After half a minute, she typed, are you still working? In the shower. Lin Xiaoqi's mind instantly flashed with the scene of Wei Yuzhen standing under the shower, dripping wet as he replied to her message. It seemed like this message was sent at the wrong time. Then you wash first, and we'll talk after you're done. What's the matter? No, I just wanted to talk to you before going to bed. After a while, Wei Yuzhen replied, miss me. Lin Xiaoqi pursed her lips. She just remembered you. But I couldn't say that, so I replied, we'll talk after you finish washing. After that, Wei Yuzhen didn't send any more messages. While waiting for news from Wei Yuzhen, Lin Xiaoqi stared at the ceiling in a daze, feeling something was wrong. It was obviously he who first expressed his interest in her. Logically, Wei Yuzhen should have taken the initiative to pursue her, and then she should have tried to accept this relationship. Why does it feel like she is pursuing Wei Yuzhen now? What is the reason? I don't know how long it took, but Lin Xiaoqi started to dream and her cell phone vibrated twice. I clicked on it and took a look. It was sent by young Master Huo, saying that he had finished washing. Lin Xiaoqi looked at the time and realized that an hour had passed. You took so long to wash. I took a shower and received a call. Before Lin Xiaoqi could come up with the next sentence, Wei Yuzhen sent another message. Have you been waiting for me? Lin Xiaoqi wanted to say that she had waited until she fell asleep, but if she did that he might urge her to rest quickly, which would kill the conversation. So I held back and said nothing, just replied with a hum. Then Wei Yuzhen sent a voice message. If your hands are not feeling well, stop typing and send a voice message instead. Lin Xiaoqi replied with one word, okay. Maybe he noticed that she couldn't continue the conversation, but Wei Yuzhen sent another voice message, asking her what she had done during the day, whether her hand felt better, and whether she remembered to apply the medicine. Finally there was a topic, and Lin Xiaoqi answered each question seriously. After talking about these daily trivialities, Lin Xiaoqi said that it was getting late and it was time to rest. But Wei Yuzhen sent her another long voice message. He said that the drone last night had been found and was caused by a neighbor's child. The child did not sleep at night and flew everywhere. Uncle Ding had installed a countermeasure system in the house during the day, so such incidents would not happen again. This news helped her sleep better than just saying good night. Lin Xiaoqi breathed a sigh of relief, put down her phone, opened the curtains with the remote control, let the moonlight in, then looked at the bright moon in the sky, said good night softly, and finally fell into a peaceful sleep. However, Wei Yuzhen, who was more than 1,000 kilometers away, was not sleepy at all. He stood behind the floor-to-ceiling window of the penthouse suite, overlooking the night view of North City, and the smile on his lips gradually disappeared. Of course, I lied to her about the drone. If someone was spying on her, how could she sleep well? Anyway, it was all solved, and the truth was the least important. Then he thought about what Ling Yao had just reported to him over the phone. He already knows the identity of Lin Xiaoqi's ex. For Xiaoqi, that must have been a very unforgettable relationship, right? No wonder she couldn't get out even though the other person was dead. But no matter what, the fact that Xiaoqi took the initiative to send him a message tonight means that she is trying to get closer to him, so this is a good start. The next day was a sunny day. At 6 o'clock in the morning, the golden morning light covered the entire community. Lin Xiaoqi went to the lake for a jog as usual. While she was warming up, she saw her neighbor number 17 running along the lakeside track from afar. Judging from the way he was panting, it seemed that he had been running for a while. Neighbor number 17 also saw her and immediately waved to her, then quickened his pace and ran to her. He put his hands on his knees and panted as he said, I've already run 3 kilometers. Why did you come just now? It's not late now, it's just past 6. Weren't you very early yesterday? Lin Xiaoqi reacted, so this guy thought that she would come out at that time today and came on time. She thought for a moment and said, I might as well get up early and leave early, but if I get up late, I might not run. He smiled helplessly, okay, are you ready to warm up? What's up? Let's run together. Lin Xiaoqi could see that this guy was obsessed with going jogging with her in the morning. Okay, then run with him. However, whether his weak legs could keep up was not something she could control. Then let's get started. After Lin Xiaoqi finished speaking, he started running. Then I heard the person behind me shouting, hey! Wait for me, you're running so fast right from the start, be careful or you'll run out of energy. Hearing the man's voice getting farther and farther away, Lin Xiaoqi curled her lips into a smile, slowed down her pace, and returned to her normal speed. Finally I can go for a peaceful morning run. When Lin Xiaoqi ran the second lap, she caught up with the neighbor who was lagging behind, passed him, and said hello, come on, neighbor. Xiemingzhi felt very embarrassed when he saw Lin Xiaoqi easily surpass him. I got so anxious that I ran forward with all my might, and then, sadly, I got a cramp in my calf. Xiemingzhi sat on the ground in agony, wanting to scratch the ground in pain. Just as he was calling for his mother because of the pain in his legs, the girl came back to him.